Well, it looks as though, are we going? Just waiting on this starting up. Yep, we're away. We're back. Oh, shit. All right, I'm lucky. Right, I accidentally unmuted the little thing I've got up here. So that's why it sounds like I'm repeating myself. But yeah, we're back for another Primal breakdown of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I'm about 20 minutes late. That seems to always be the case whenever, pretty much whenever I stream, I'm always like really late. You know, it's one of those, I was still like going over the movie to make sure I had all the notes I needed. And then you realise the time, it's like, oh shit, I've still got to get a shower and all that sort of stuff. So I am about 20 minutes late, but we're here now. And I suppose I'm not really going to waste much time. I think we should really just get into it with Guardians 3, which, you know, as most of us have, this is a film I've been hoping is just really, really good, and I can't help but feel a little disappointed. You know, it's one of those movies that you kind of, when you're watching it, you're really enjoying it, and then after you start to, what happens is you start to use your brain, and then you start to go, oh, I'm not feeling quite satisfied about this. So that's kind of what we've ended up with here, at least for me anyway. It does have, issues. I think really in the grand scheme of things, it's I think the best way, it's the best movie since No Way Home. That's probably whereabouts you would put this film. It's definitely a lot better than your Multiverse of Madness. Your Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, at least with this one, it actually has a story to tell. Some of the stuff in the film is really well done and really good. Other stuff, it's like you haven't really done much with. And it's like the thing you have to remember with Guardians 3 is it's essentially that it's the last, the last in the series, I suppose. The way it ends, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be coming back. But I think that what they've used to, and how they've went about telling the last film in the series, I'm just like, it's not, you haven't really done enough with all the other characters. It's like what you kind of want to do with this film is, you want every character, at least every character, most characters, the main characters, the major characters, is to actually give them something where, oh, yeah, that's a good send-off. But in this, it's like, it tends to be, as we know, it's an origin of Rocket, so it mainly revolves around him. So like the stuff with Rocket is really good. The other stuff, it's just like this, there's not really been as much work put into it. There's some characters in this that literally have no purpose. There's a couple. There is a couple where it's just like, what have you done this movie? I can't think of anything what they've done. So that's where I think this has gone wrong. I think in itself the Rocket stuff is really good, but it's like you want a good ending for Peter, for Gamora, for all these characters, and we just don't really get enough. There is at least one portion in this movie that really pisses me off, because how pointless it is. It literally, it goes nowhere. It's like, so you just wasted time that you could have used for something more meaningful. This film is about 2 hours 20 minutes, round about there, and about 15. There's like a 15 to 20 minute section where it's just like, what the fuck was the point in that? It seems like James Gunn watched an episode of The Mandalorian. That's kind of what a part in this movie is like, where it's just like, oh, we've got to get this thing for X, Y, and Z, and then we don't actually get anything out of that. So it's like, well, that was completely pointless. Then that could have been spent on a lot of other things. I think in terms of the sort of thematic elements they bring into it, when we get the option to have a sort of conversation between one character and another, it's like, right, well, there's things you can do with this, to see where one person is coming from and how, that idea falls apart. You could do all these things and it just ends up, I don't care. Like you have a character explaining what it is they want, and then another character, I don't care. Yeah, but we could have an interesting conversation with that. You've introduced something, thematically that requires. There's a lot to unpack out of it. There's a lot you need to do with it, and it just gets sort of brushed aside as, oh, I don't care. I don't care what you've got. This what. Yeah, but we could have something like really interesting there. So that seems to be what I've pointed out so far as the main issues with the film. I think the stuff with Rocket is, again, really good. I can't really go into that. I don't want to spoil it yet, but that's kind of the best takeaway from the film is all the Rocket stuff. Other stuff, it's just like, I don't think there's been enough work into it. It seems like James Gunn's went the route of, it's one of those things where he goes, oh, you know what would be really cool? And there hasn't been anyone to go, no, James, maybe not. Maybe that's kind of what parts of the film feel like, where it's just went, oh, that would be a cool idea, and not really thinking much else about it. So it's very, even like tonally, it's really off now and again, where you'll have like certain stuff to do with Rocket that is very, very, emotional. And then you'll cut to the sort of next segment of the film, and it will be, we got a 80s rock song play. It's like, what the fuck is going on there? We don't get where there's something serious going on, and then there's a joke. It's more of, we have a serious part of the movie, and then we go back to a present day, and again, you get a hard 80s rock music going da da da. It's like, we just had that emotional shit that gets you tearing up, and and then we like convert to that. It's like really, it's not quite well tonally balanced. When you have something serious there, and then you cut to the next scene, you kind of need to take your time before you can go into, right, where we want to make some jokes now. I think it just needed a bit more time to actually wait to do more of the funny stuff. I think I suppose that brings us to the comedy of the movie. I probably laughed out loud maybe 3 times. That was about it. There's some jokes in there where, there's at least one joke in there that's not funny to begin with, and then they just keeps popping up every now and again. It's like, it's not really funny. It's not really amounting to anything. The jokes are definitely not as good as they are in 1 and 2. I think 1 and 2 does the comedy a lot better than this one. But as I say, there's the odd joke in there that you might go, like that. There, as I say, there's about 2 or 3 jokes where that actually made me like laugh, like out loud. But other than that, not really. There's not really many sort of clever jokes. I think that's the main thing that it is missing. There's not really anything clever about the jokes. It's just, this person does this funny thing, and that's really about it. There's no sort of other levels to the joke. So that's kind of where we're at with the comedy in this. This film is definitely the worst out of the 3. I think 1 and 2, like Volume 1, clearly the best one. Volume 2, I still think is really good. A lot of people seem to be sort of sour on that movie, but I don't really get that, because I think Volume 2 is really fucking good. I think there's probably the odd issue in it, stuff like that. But the kind of issues in this movie is a lot more than the other 2. And it's, it just kind of, again, I did enjoy this film when I sat and watched it. And then you do start to, because I have to think about it, because, we need to do this fucking show. It just, some of it just falls apart, where it doesn't really have a satisfying ending. It doesn't really seem like, right, this is the definitive ending to the Guardians movies. You know, it essentially, when it, you know, it should be really, because, you know, James Gunn's gone now. But, you know, again, it's Disney. We gotta milk the fuck out of everything. So that's probably why we don't just have a definitive ending. Even with there's some stuff that I want to get into, but I don't want to spoil it yet. Because I mean, a lot of us thought, you know, going into this, you know, they're probably gonna kill some characters. I'll probably leave it there at the moment. But whether there's definitely, you know, I don't want to get into it yet. I think we'll just leave it for now. But I suppose that's probably my overall thoughts. You know, I've probably, yeah, I went a bit too longer than I needed to, just on the sort of overall stuff. Again, it's not a movie that I would say that's a bad movie. It's just a movie where there's loads of potential there, and it kind of gets glossed over. It kind of gets forgot about. So that's really where it falls down. I think the plot is not that great. There is a lot of issues within the plot. The thematic stuff, like, it is essentially, you know, perfection. That's like the main thing. But even sometimes that kind of gets lost as well. You know, I've mentioned you know, you have a character explain his motivations, why he's doing this, and then the other character just says, "I don't care." It's like, well, you know, you can talk about that. That would be, you know, you could chuck out that 20-minute segment of the film that is an absolute waste, and then, you know, put it in there. Use that part of the movie for that. But yeah, there's just a lot of missed opportunities. It's just a film where this could have been a lot better. There's just so many opportunities there that just get, again, glossed over. So that's really where it just kind of pisses me off a bit. Because it could have been a whole lot better. It just doesn't do that, and that's kind of where I'm at with this film. I think it's still a film that I would rewatch. You know, if I was sitting through and watching 1, 2, and 3, you know, I'd watch them all. But it's one of those ones where, you know, I'm not quite happy with this one. Volume 1 and 2, I really like. I think they're really up there as really good movies. And this one is just like, you know, it's not. You haven't really done stuff that you could have done. You've just kind of went, nah, we're not going to take that opportunity to delve into that. But so yeah, it's essentially the rocket stuff, really good. Other than that, not really. It's really the rocket stuff that saves this movie. You know, he's the only really seems to be the character that gets the most attention. I think it still would have worked a lot better. You know, because in the movie, like, mainly the rocket stuff is flashbacks to what he went through. And in present day, he's not quite there. And I just think it would have benefited a lot more if we actually had the interactions with Rocket and the rest of the Guardians. You know, because in terms of what we've actually gotten out of the first 3. Out of all the 3 movies, I mean, we haven't had that much interaction between them all. You know, in the second one, Rocket was off on a different, you know, in a different place. On a different, like, you know, away from, you know, Peter, Gamora, and all that sort of stuff. So it would have been, I think it definitely would have benefited if we had a bit more of Rocket that wasn't just confined to flashbacks. So I don't think they should have really done it the way they did. I thought I think if you're going to use the sort of flashback stuff, I think it could have been done in a better way, implemented in a different way. But that's really all I can think of just for overall thoughts. I might, you know, trying to rate this film out of 10. I'm just like, I'm kind of all over the place with it. Because I think I should probably give it a rating, and then maybe I'll change my mind by the time we get through this. But at the moment, I'm kind of sitting at about 5.5. 5.5 out of 10. That's kind of whereabouts I'm at. Whereabouts I am. I may be able to push it up to about a 6, but I would not go higher than that. I just think, again, a lot of missed opportunities. It's not really satisfying. There is issues with the plot. There's a lot of characters that don't get their sort of dues. And yeah, we've even got a couple of characters. It's just like, why the fuck are you even here? You know, there's at least 2 characters like that where I'm just like, why are you here? You know, what you actually bring into the movie? Because there's some stuff in here where it's just like, so what you've done is you've wasted time on like this part of it when it's like, well, there's other stuff here that really needs more attention to. So there is elements of that. But I suppose that we can just kind of get into it now. Because I reckon even just by, it's took us 15 minutes just to get the overall thoughts. So we're probably going to be here a while, I reckon, at least a couple of hours. So we might as well just dive into it. I'm just going to grab that. Just make sure. I've got all my notes in front of me. But even kind of, again, I'm here for another breakdown. I'm just like, I could honestly do with going through the movie a third time. Which I may consider. I may consider end up doing a video on it or something like that, but we shall have to wait and see. But let's get into this. So yeah, it opens with like, it opens where you have like, baby raccoons. I've got to try and stop myself from saying raccoon. I don't know why, but I always want to say raccoon rather than raccoon. I don't know what it is. I think just raccoon is a lot more straightforward than raccoon. So that's probably what that is. So I've got to try and stop myself from doing that. So yeah, it opens up with like, you've got little raccoons in a cage, and the hands of, our main villain puts his hand in and picks one up that is, of course, Rocket. So that's how it opens, and then you go to nowhere, where that's where they are now, the big celestial head. Although this comes up later on in the film, and it's like that celestial is like really big, whereas in this it seems to be not as big, even though in the first movie it's fucking huge. It's humongous. So that's of course where we start. You've got Rocket walking across. Because the start of the movie, when it's the hand going in, grab, and then it then transfers, or rather goes over to current day Rocket. So he's walking through nowhere. He goes into the little bar. You've got like Peter. I'm trying to play this movie at the same time. I'm gonna have to get rid of it because I'm not gonna be able to pay attention. So I think I'll just get rid of that for now. So that's kind of how it opens. You have Rocket walking across the sort of, just where all the shops are, the bars, all that sort of stuff. He goes in the bar with like, he must have like Peter's iPod. Peter's in the bar, pissed up. He's still like, he's still not over Gamora. And that is something where I'm like, because by the end of the movie, it's like they try and play it as, right, we're done with that now. And I'm just like, I can't really let you off the hook with that. I don't really think you've done enough with that to justify anything. That, oh, he's now over Gamora. So not really though. They have it that he is, but I'm just like, well, what groundwork has been put into that? I don't really know, but that's how it starts out. You have Drax say, oh, again. So it's like obvious. Oh, so he gets pissed up all the time because he's still not over Gamora. So that's how it opens. You have like Nebula. Nebula seems to be one of the most competent characters in the film. So she seems to be kind of in charge. She puts Peter to bed, and then like before he kind of passes out, he grabs Nebula and he's just like, I love you, Gamora. So that's of course what we're supposed to be doing there. Is he still hasn't gotten over Gamora dying. Gamora in this movie, I'm not really looking forward to talking about, to be honest. I'll say that right now. I'm really not looking forward to her. You know, James Gunn was kind of definitely fucked. He got the short end of the stick with that, with the decisions they made in, you know, in Endgame. It's like it's a character they don't bring her back. Don't have this where you kill people off and then you bring them back. So that's kind of, they fucked him with that. So then it's kind of up to James Gunn, right? What's the decisions, you know, to make with Gamora? Where would Gamora be? And it's just like, oh, that's not Gamora. So that's kind of where that's why I'm not looking forward to talking about her, because Gamora's definitely one of, you know, I really like her character in 1 and 2. In this, not so much, and that's for various reasons. But I'm probably getting a bit too far ahead of myself. So that's kind of where we start off. You know, Nebula puts him to bed. He's like, you know, I love you, Gamora, and then he passes out. But yeah, Nebula seems to be the only, like, at least one of the main, like, more competent person. Where you've got some characters in this, which there's certain decisions they make that really, really piss me off. Even the first time I watched it, I'm like, don't do that, don't do that, and then they do it. It's just like, why the fuck did you do that? So she's kind of the only one that really calls people out on their, you know, just incompetent, clownish bullshit. You can probably guess what characters I'm talking about with that. So yeah, and then you kind of get stuff with Kraglin as well, James Gunn's brother. That's some stuff where I'm like, you know, okay then, but at the same time, I'm also like, well, it's kind of taking up screen time, isn't it? It's kind of taking up screen time with a side character. You know, he's not in it that much. I may be sort of, you know, making it out to be the case. It's more of just like, oh, but there's other stuff here that we need to get into. But I guess, you know, it doesn't take up that much time, so, you know, fair enough. So he's, like, still learning to use Yondu's laser, you know, laser dart, laser pen, I forget what he calls it. So he's trying out the, you know, whistling, so it flies and hits, so it dings all these little bells, you know, it's a little coarse thing, and then it ends up, so we get, like, kind of our first joke, where it's like, Nebula walks out of where she just came from, putting Peter to bed, and then the dart goes into her body. So you do get the odd thing like that, where it's like, you know, not it's not really doing anything for me. So then you have the dog Cosmo, or is it, yeah, Cosmo, not Cosma? Is it Cosma? It's because I've written in my notes Cosma. I'm pretty sure it's Cosmo though. I think I've just misspelt it. So that's like a dog that has telekinesis, and the dog tries it out, saying, "Oh, I can do it," and, like, you know, mind controls a pebble and throws all these different things. And then this is when we get the introduction of a joke that is a running joke throughout the film, and it wasn't really funny the first time, but it comes up about another 3 times. It's just like it's not doing anything. Where you just, like, Kraglin's, like, kind of jealous that this dog just showed him up, and he's like, he calls the dog a bad dog, and then it's just the dog going, take that back. So that comes up about 3 more times, I think. That's I just stopped writing at my notes. I'm like, yeah, once is enough. You know, I think that, I guess the only thing you could, maybe it's cute. That's about it. It's not necessarily a funny one. So yeah, then once you're sort of done with because I guess Kraglin's sort of a part of the group, but not really. You know, they go off to, like, have something to eat. Like, I don't know what it is. I'm not sure what they're eating. And then it's, you know, Mantis is like, what are we going to do about Peter and all that? Nebula's like, well, he's your brother. And that's still something that I think a lot of people don't even know. I don't know how many people watched the Guardians Christmas special, where it came out that, oh, Mantis is Peter's sister. But that's really something that you need to do in the actual main films, because a lot of people may not have watched the Guardians one, but that's what, you know, I guess it was pretty obvious that she probably would have been. But at the same time, it's like, well, that's something that you want to address. You know, for people that ain't seen the Christmas special, it's just like, what? You're a sister? Where the fuck did that come from? So yeah, even like starting off in they are quite sort of clunky on the exposition. You know, for at least I suppose there's other examples that we talk about, but at least for the first half an hour, it can be quite like, as in, like, we're reminding you what happened in the other films. It's like, well, most of us fucking know this. So it's just like, there's no point in doing it. There's no point in catching it. It's like, because we all know this. We're all aware of it. So you have stuff like, you know, Nebula goes, oh, well, you know, it's your brother. Can't you think of it? Can't you just, you know, sort of use your powers and make him feel better? And she's like, nah, you can't do that in Friends. Well, you can, can't you? She does it in this film. So she could do something like that to make him feel a bit better. You know, I guess you don't really want to do that because you want to be able to do something with it. You don't really want to just have it where she can get rid of that, so we're done with that. So, you know, that's more of a reason why you shouldn't just have her do that. Yeah, so then you, after saying, like, all that, how's it going, Biffa the Hobbit? Still one of the best names on YouTube, I think. So then you have, like, yeah, like Kraglin says, yeah, he's been real mopey ever since Gamora died. It's just like, well, yeah, we kind of get that. And then you have Nebula say she didn't die. She just doesn't remember anything from the past few years. And I'm just like, some of that it just comes across really clunky. It's like, because the majority of people know. For some reason, Kraglin doesn't know this. But, you know, everybody knows that, well, she's not dead. I don't know why we have Kraglin that thinks she's dead. And I don't know why, like, you have to remind us, oh no, Gamora is alive, but she just doesn't remember anything. It's like, yeah, we know that. We all seen fucking Endgame. So that's something that, you know, now and again it can be a thing where it's just like we get reminded of what has happened in past movies. It's just like it's like, well, you don't need that. You know, everybody's pretty much up to speed on it all. Yeah, especially, you know, if you have to remind people about that when it's like, you do realize Endgame, how much fucking money that made. One of the most watched movies ever. It's like, yeah, you don't need to tell people any of that. So then of course, it starts out straight away with, you know, our action. This is kind of what starts the movie off. And this is probably a character that if you're a big fan of comics, you're probably not going to be too happy with. I really don't think anyone's going to be happy about Adam Warlock. He's kind of a joke character, really. You know, he's not really, you know, he's one of those characters that, from what I know, he should have been in, like, the Infinity War stuff. That should have been where he was introduced, but he's in this film, and it seems like that Marvel just said, here, James, can you introduce this character in your movie? That's what it seems like. And then they seem to play it by the end of the movie that, Adam Warlock has had an arc. It's like he's barely in it. He's barely in the movie. When he is, you know, some of his scenes I do find funny, but he's not really a character that you can take serious. At least maybe not until the very end of the film. But through the majority, he's just kind of, you know, a bit of a clown. Doesn't quite understand stuff. But some of his stuff is quite funny. But yeah, I think comic book readers aren't going to be happy. So yeah, you get Adam Warlock. It then Rocket goes and, I don't know, puts the iPod out on and plays music. And then it cuts to Adam Warlock flying through the sky into nowhere. And then sort of flies straight into Rocket and then blasts through a bunch of buildings. You know, I don't know why it's done like that. I don't, especially from what we get later, that it seems like, you know, our main villain wants Rocket alive. Yet you have this guy just fucking rushing in, flying through all these buildings while holding Rocket. I'm like, what are you doing? So that's where it's sort of our stuff starts out, and this is going to be the sort of, you know, this will get the movie going. This is what's going to make everything occur. And some of the stuff, it's like, oh, you wasted time on that part. So that's kind of what we've got here. So you have like Nebula. Nebula fights him. You know, he beats her. He like throws her all the way across like the city. Then you have Groot that then comes into play, and he like wraps himself around Adam, and then Adam flies off with Groot attached to him. And then yeah, I think yeah, after that I think like Groot is just a head. He's just got a head. But then, yeah, then you get like Kraglin again, where he you know whistles his little dart, it hits Adam in the face, and Adam just go, "Who threw this thing at me? Babies." So that's kind of you know what you're dealing with Adam. More of there just to be a bit of a clown. Yeah, and then he comes, he like finds Rocket again because like Rocket got away. He finds Rocket again, and then he like essentially shoots Rocket like in the body. So Rocket's now like you know bleeding out and all that. And I'm just a bit confused like because this Adam Warlock has been given orders from someone who wants Rocket alive, yet Adam like almost kills him. Or like what it seems like attempts to kill him. So I don't really know why that was there. When it's like, well, you want Rocket alive. The reason why Adam is here specifically to take Rocket back to where he needs to go. And then he like pretty much attempts to kill him. Yeah, and then like Mantis comes in. Adam snaps her arm. You've got Peter shooting him, and then Drax fights him. Drax like drags him out and throws him outside, and then like yeah. So then you have there's like so many different things going on here, because you then have like well Rocket is like bleeding out, so they need to get a med pack, which is I don't know if this was in anything else, where essentially it's a med pack that heals you. So like Mantis will put this med pack round her arm, and that will fix her arm. So I don't remember that ever being a thing. It just seems to be that it's only been introduced now. That a med pack is essentially well it just heals you. It heals all your wounds. So yeah, then you have Drax getting beat the shit out of by Adam, and that's probably something worth mentioning now. It's like it's hard to really tell how much damage can some of these characters actually take. Because there's certain moments in this film, especially with Drax, where he gets damaged to a certain, and it's just like, well, how much damage can he really take? Because you've got this superhuman guy punching the shit out of Drax, like really hard hitters. You know, I guess it's not as bad in this part of the film, but there's a moment later on where it's just like so this Drax is pretty much invincible. That's kind of what it seems like with him. It's kind of like that multiple times with multiple characters, where it's just like, you shouldn't really be able to take all that damage. You probably should, you know, at least pretend that you've been hurt. So then, like, Nebula comes up behind Adam and then stabs him in the back. And then, yeah, you then cut back to Mantis and Peter using this med pack on Rocket, like, wrapping it around his body. I think Mantis screams, so then Nebula runs over. And she, like, Nebula's like, take the med pack off. You know, we do come back to that later, like, the med pack stuff. And then they, like, take him off to, like, the med bay on the ship. And then that's when we kind of go into our first flashback with Rocket. You know, you get, like, the letters. Oh, what happened there? For some reason, on my notes, I went all the way to the bottom, so now I've got to re-find where I was. So, yeah, our first flashback with Rocket. I think I might want to pull this up. Hold on a second. Because I'm just trying to remember certain things. Because this is probably the shortest flashback, I think. So, yeah, you know, it flashes the letters like 889P13. That's, of course, like the code name. of Rocket, or, you know, the just sort of coded numbers. And then you get like little flashes of the types of things that were done to Rocket. It's, you know, the way some critics were making out with this film, you know, they were kind of making out, oh, it's full on animal cruelty. It's like you don't really get that much. It's like you may have like getting shoved, but not anything. You know, it's only really here where you get the odd flash of a bit of blood, but you don't really. It's not really graphic. You know, the way the critics were making out, I thought that's what I thought it was going to be, but it's actually not as bad as, you know, what you would expect it to be. You know, you can obviously figure out on your own what's been done to him, but it doesn't actually show you as such. So that he gets put in with like batch 89, and that's where he gets, you know, if you've seen the clips, he gets put in with, it's like a rabbit, an otter, and a sea lion, I think it's a sea lion. And you have like Rocket, who's just been, you know, operated on. You know, it's sort of, you can see like the top of his head, where it's like they've had this shit open. So, you know, they're just like, oh, you know, like the other animals, they're just like, oh, we got a new guy. You know, they're like, oh, what are you, and all that sort of stuff. And then it's like the otter that goes over to him. She's like, oh, don't mind them. They're not trying to scare you. And then you have like, how Rocket is kind of like shaking there. You know, he's just fucking had his brain top off. He's kind of just shaking there, and he just says, you know, hurts. I wanted to say it in like how he says it, but I'm like, no, I'll probably embarrass myself. But yeah, that's what he says, hurts. Like, you know, he's in pain. And then you have the otter that kind of takes like a little rag and then like wipes the blood off his head. So it quite a nice little scene. That's kind of all we get for now. You know, it's just kind of sprinkled in all these flashbacks. And again, as I was saying, sort of in my overall kind of thoughts on this, is this film would have benefited a lot if it wasn't for the fact that Rocket is, well, he's been shot, so he's now pretty much out of the game until about half an hour of the movie left. The rest of it is all just flashbacks, and it's like a lot of this stuff would have benefited a lot more by having him also, you know, alive. You know, he's not dead, but as in like he's kind of doing things. I think it would have benefited a lot more from not having it the way of, he's out of the game, we just get flashbacks. You know, I think especially when you're about to sort of face, he's about to sort of face, you know, what was done to him by the person that done it to him. It's like it can be a lot more impactful. Like if you have Rocket kind of like scared to, you know, have anything to do with this guy again. And then it's kind of at the end of the movie goes, right, you know, I'm tired of running, and then he sort of faces this guy that done the shit to him. I think that would have been a lot more impactful when it's, you know, with it being the sort of last Guardians movie, you know, as we are at the moment. I'm just like, you kind of want that interaction between Rocket and everybody else. So there is a lot of stuff there where I'm like, I would have done it this way preferably. So then it turns out, you know, we get our little Mando side quest. It honestly seems like James Gunn watched an episode of season 3 of The Mandalorian with the sort of what we have to go and get. It's essentially a fetch quest. The main issue though is, right, that's fair enough on its own. But when you go and do this fetch quest and we don't get anything out of it, it's like you've just wasted a lot of time. A big segment of time. It makes it worse by just a little thing that they, you know, again, they had an idea that thought, oh, that would be cool if we've got one of these things, one of these, and they don't quite think of the implications of that. They don't quite think, well, you know, it's something that at least in 2 cases in this film, where it's like, well, you could just do that. And both times it's like, nah, they haven't fucking thought about it. They've just added this thing in because they think it's cool. And haven't realised the sort of implications of it. But that's again, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself there. So yeah, it turns out that the reason why the med packs can't heal Rocket is because the Rocket has a kill switch. Like Nebula is sort of like looking at his insides to see what the problem is. You know, again, I don't really, you know, because when he first gets shot and they put the med pack on him, like I don't really know why straight away Nebula's like, oh, don't take that off of him. I just, you know, unless it's just, you know, because when he gets the med pack first put on him, he's kind of shaken about a bit. Like, almost like it's not doing what it's supposed to do. So I guess that's the reason why. But she's now, like, looking inside him to see, you know, what's happened here. Yeah, and it turns out there is a kill switch inside of him to... essentially, in case... well, as Nebula says, in case someone goes poking around inside him, or even if we use the med packs. You know, I do find that... just that line, really... because it's like it seems like they've just thrown that in there because, I mean, if you go, oh, well, there's a kill switch in him in case someone goes poking around inside him, yeah, putting a med pack on it, that's not going inside of him. So that's, so just the fact that they add on, or even if we use the med, it's like almost like, because, you know, people would go, well, how does that make sense? Because a med pack is not, you know, that's not poking around inside him. So that's why I think that line is added there. That's what it seems like, because it seems to be, oh, well, it's in case someone goes poking around him, or specifically, even if we use the med packs. I'm just like, yeah, but what is the med packs doing to him? You know, from what we've seen of the med packs, they just heal you up. Like, would it not essentially, you know, I don't know, sort of just, you know, seal the wound that he has in his sort of body. So I don't really know with that, but that's what we've got here. He has a kill switch, so that means so like Nebula is looking at all the sort of tech that is inside him, because yeah, I think they've got like it's like almost like an X-ray sort of thing that they put over him where they can see sort of what is inside him. So there's like a little thing that is on his heart. That is the kill switch. So yeah, so that's when we, you know, kind of figure out, right, so you know, Adam Warlock is here to get Rocket. You know, why now though? That's one thing. I'm like, why is it now that it's like, right, we want, like, this, you know, whoever this person is that we'll soon get to, how like, why is it only just, well, it seems like he's been looking for Rocket, you know, all these years, and, you know, I guess, you know, I guess it's fine. So yeah, like looking into Rocket's body, you know, they figure out, oh, there's it turns out there's a pass key that can override the kill switch. Although, you know, I don't know, you know, I don't know why that information is on him. Although, you know, there's obviously a way to override the kill switch. They find out, oh, it's tech made by OrgoCorp. It's either OrgoCorp or OrgoCorp. And that's the OrgoCorp stuff in this movie is the most waste of time shit ever. That's the biggest sort of just waste of time in the entire movie. But we're not far off getting to that. So yeah, then you have like it's just kind of a silly joke where it's not even funny, and it's like, you know, Rocket in the other room is almost dying. So you do get, sometimes you get that, you know, where they're like, we're going to go to OrgoCorp and we're gonna get this, you know, this override thing, and Drax is like, and kill anyone who gets in our way, and then like Peter's like, no, we're not going to kill anyone, and then Drax is like, oh no, just one person. We'll kill one person that nobody cares about. It's just like it's not really the time. I just think with stuff like this, it's like you need to wait a little bit when you've just come out of a room that has Rocket there on his deathbed. Maybe not the best time. So it turns out Nebula has a contact that is near this Orgo Corp that will be able to help us get in. And this is essentially, well, we need a reason to get Gamora into the movie, don't we? Because she's not with the Guardians. So that's then we then get really strange decisions for Gamora at that point. We're not quite there yet. So yes, Nebula's got a contact there that they're gonna ring, gonna let know they're coming to help them get into this place. And then they play music, and then right, we're off on our adventure to this Orgo Corp, and it's sort of, you get the Since You've Been Gone song. That gets sort of played, and you get like little flashbacks in there as well of like Rocket playing with his like other animal friends sort of within the flashbacks. So there is like nice little stuff like that. But that's again the majority of the good things I do have to say about this film is the Rocket parts. Those are the bits that are like really, really well done. So yeah, then we finally get introduced to our villain, which is the High Evolutionary. He's like our main villain. It turns out that he created the Sovereign. He's like, as his name says, High Evolutionary. So essentially, he creates worlds, creates like people on the worlds. So we find out about the Sovereign they're his creation, as he puts it in this film, that he is like the Sovereign are just like an aesthetic experiment, a bunch of gold people. So we get that information. So that's why. And of course, in the second film, that was when the Sovereign had a run-in with the Guardians. They seen Rocket, and it's like only just now they're mentioning to him that, oh, there's this Rocket guy that you're looking for, which is something I find strange, because I mean, if you're like this big, you're experimenting with different civilizations, it's like surely you have someone watching over that civilization to see what they do. If it's essentially an experiment. So I find it funny that he doesn't already have that information. You would think there'd be someone over, like, watching them and going, oh, there's that raccoon you wanted. So he probably should have already found out with that one. As far as the villain goes, it's probably the best villain we've gotten, like, probably like in ages. Out of everything through Phase 4, and even in the Phase, this is probably the most interesting villain that we've had. It's one of those things where, again, just missed opportunities. They don't quite go into certain things enough. But the performance is really good. There's a couple of decisions, at least at the end of the film, that the villain makes where it's just like, why did you fucking make that decision? That was really dumb. But for the most part, he's got something interesting about him, sort of what he is trying to achieve. But as I said at the start of this, when we have the opportunity to go into that, we have our one of our characters say, I don't care about that, so we move the fuck on. And it's like, oh, well, no, that's interesting, though. There's a lot to talk about there. You can't just go, I don't care. So that's kind of, I guess, my brief thoughts of the villain. So that's how we're introduced to him. He's a guy that creates civilizations. He sort of like, he says, oh, you Sovereign, you were just an aesthetic experiment, and now your egos seem to have been like driven wild. And then you like, because I'm pretty sure it's the in Guardians 2. When they do that job in the beginning for that, I'm pretty sure it's the like the Queen. I think that's what she's called, Empress. So that's like Adam Warlock's mother. So he looks over Adam Warlock and goes, this one was supposed to be the Warlock, an apogee of your people. And she says, oh, well, you took him from his cocoon too early. And that's something we've got the villain here is someone who is obsessed with perfection. Yet he seems to also be impatient. That's one of those things where it's just like, well, those kind of oppose each other a bit. If you want perfection, but you're not willing to wait for it, it's like it's going to be a lot harder to get to perfection. So I do find it funny that he took Adam out of his cocoon too early. He's a bit, again, Adam Warlock in this film is a bit of a tool. It's almost like he's got something wrong with him. And that's something that the High Evolutionary points out. He's like, well, there's more wrong with him than just he came out of his cocoon too early. But yeah, that's one decision where I'm just like, would someone that is obsessed with perfection do something too early, where it's like where something hasn't played out to perfection? So that's one question I do have about that. Then he says you knew of A989 P13, which is Rocket, for years without alerting me, and that was the line where I was like, wait, surely you must have someone watching over. You must have something like that. If your whole thing is experimenting to make a perfect society. So maybe should already have that information, but I guess he just sort of doesn't check in on him, on his experiments. So yeah, he tells like the sovereign, like Empress or Queen or whatever it is, to find the raccoon, or I'll destroy your entire civilizations, as is my right, as your maker. So he's definitely got a bit of an ego himself. We do get a line later on in the film where it's even now it's pretty obvious how he views himself. He views himself as a sort of god. That's kind of whereabouts his ego is. So yeah, what he wants, he essentially wants Rocket because Rocket's smart. He wants to look at, he wants to examine an experiment on Rocket's brain, based on the sort of intelligence that Rocket has. Rocket is just able to, like, he's a really good inventor. So that's what he wants Rocket for. He tells like his sort of minions, I guess minions is probably the right word for them. They're not henchmen. They work for him. So they ask what, the sovereign are, pretty incompetent. Why are we gonna send them off to do it? They're maybe not the best to do it. The High Evolutionary just says, oh, I'm getting the sovereign to look for them as a backup plan, because he believes that he knows where they're going. Which I'm just like, how do you have that information? How can you to figure, like, because he doesn't, like, in this scene, he just came out. He's only just been told, oh, we came across we went and tried to get that raccoon. And that's like the only information he has. He doesn't have the information that Rocket has been, like, almost killed. Because I mean, if he did, he'd be pretty upset about that. So he's got nothing really to go on. That, oh, they're gonna go to Orgocorp to get the pass key to sort of to override the kill switch. He's got no information to base that on. I don't know where he's gotten it from. I mean, even if they just added in there, Adam said, yeah, I got him, I shot him, which again, it's like, well, why? This guy wants him alive. Why the fuck did you shoot him? I don't know why. Which he'd be upset about, because he wants Rocket alive. I mean, a dead brain, it's not really as useful, is it? When you want to, when you want to experiment on it to apply it to, you know, your more newer products or creations. So yeah, there's not really any way you should be able to go, oh, they've gone to AugoCorp. It's like, well, you didn't even wait to hear what the information was. You didn't even wait to hear that he'd been shot. So then you could go, oh, they must be going to AugoCorp. That will be the only way to save him. Which I still think this stuff kind of falls down a bit. That you can't, basically Rocket is someone that you can't save. You know, unless you figure out, oh, we need a pass key to override the kill switch. So essentially, you've created this thing where there's no way to like help him. You know, if it, you know, say he got something done to him in Guardians 1 or 2. You know, would that have come up then that, oh, you can't save him? There's nothing we can do unless we get this override switch. You know, I don't really know about that. Because again, it's like when they put a med pack on him, that's like outside his body. You know, I don't really know. So that's finally when we sort of start going to the AugoCorp stuff. They turn up at the Orgoscope, as it's called, and again, I always have to. I'm getting really tired of having to describe things, because again, you're always faced with something where it's like, how the fuck do I describe what this is? Because it's just something that is so out there, it's insane. Essentially, the Orgoscope it's like a bioform that is not built but grown from living matter. So it is essentially made out of flesh. It has hairs on it and stuff like that. So that's what it looks like. I fucking hell. Some of the stuff you have to describe, but that's what it is. It's just this big giant fleshy thing that is like a space station essentially. And there's like they have to jam the signals, like our Guardians. They have to jam signals because there's like three barriers like around this place. So they have to jam the signals so that will let them push through of the sort of barriers, which is pretty easy to get through it. And I'm like, the stuff they have at this AugoCorp is stuff you don't want getting in the wrong hands. Yet it seems quite easy to get through break through this sort of barriers. There's a lot about this AugoCorp that makes no sense. You know, the things that are said about them is like, you got to watch out for these deadly sentries and all that. And it's just like, well, they don't even show up. You know, they've got all this stuff within this space station that they don't want getting out there. It's very private, confidential stuff. Yet it's really easy to get in there. Like, really easy. I mean, first of all, your space station is made out of fucking flesh. Flesh you can cut through. So why is that a decision? It's, you know, you'd be better off having it as just, you know, regular metal. Because, I mean, if like, flesh is, like, it's really easy to cut into. You know, if you cut open your arm, it's not hard, is it? So I don't know why that's a choice. Why you would go with, oh, we got all this private information we don't want getting out there, so we'll go inside a flesh thingy. It just doesn't quite sit right with me that's like a decision that you would make. That's like the worst material you could go for. So, you know, as you've got Peter like down jamming these signals, he's like, oh, you know, Nebula's mad at me again because I was drunk. You know, she's right. If I hadn't been drinking, maybe Rocket. And he kind of cuts off a bit. And then Mantis says, oh, it's okay, he's your best friend. And I'm just like, so how is that a reply to what he just said? It's okay, he's your best friend. And then I think it's just there to have a joke that lays up Drax to say, second best friend. That's like a thing that comes up now and again, where Peter's like, he's my best friend, and then Drax says second best friend. It's just like, it's not really the time or place. You got your that friend dying, and you're trying to compete for first place best friend. And it's not really funny, is it? Pretty sure I've heard that joke thousands of times. So Peter goes into, everyone around me dies. My mother, Yondu, Gamora. Mantis says, well, Gamora isn't dead. She basically is. See, that the Gamora that exists now is not Gamora. She's a different one. So essentially is dead. So there is, like, again, there's stuff you can get into with that, like, Peter feeling like, no matter what, everyone just seems to die around me, even though not necessarily. Out of a lot of people, I don't really think he's up there for, everybody dying around him. But it's not really something we get into that, about his, everyone around me dies. So you have, like, Mantis bringing up his granddad, like his grandpa. Peter's like, well, he's probably dead by now. Mantis is like, why have you never visited him? And that's kind of the sort of ending we get with Peter in this movie. It's just like, why? He makes a decision at the end of the movie where it's just like, you haven't really done much for that, though, have you? You haven't. It hasn't been a constant thing throughout the movie because not enough time has been given to all the other characters. And when it's like, this is the end of the trilogy, you want to make sure every character has their sort of, get sent off in a good way, in a way that has been built up through the movie. It tends not to do that. There's just not enough attention goes towards that. Making sure all the characters have a proper send off. So that stuff that gets brought up, Peter's granddad, he's probably dead by now. And then like the alarms start going off in the ship, and it's the Ravagers. The Ravagers show up. They board the ship. The thing I'm going to point out now is there is a sorcerer with the Ravagers that can open up portals. So he opens up portals on this ship, and that allows all the Ravagers to pile in. And we'll come back to the sorcerer part, but you may be able to see where I'm going with this. Open up portals to places. You can go to places through portals. It's very, very unique thing that would come in handy for what we're about to get into. It could save us a lot of trouble. But we will come back to that in a second once we sort of start off what we're about to do. So yeah, all the Ravagers come in. They have to explain. Like Nebula says, "Oh, we've got an appointment with Gamora." I'm just like, why don't the rest of the Ravagers know that? So that's a decision that we're now going to have to talk about. Gamora joined the Ravagers. Why? I really don't understand that at all. She never, like, again, I think I have got to say, because some people will say, oh, well, she's a different Gamora. She's not Gamora in Gamora 1. But, Gamora, like, the Gamora we have now is the Gamora that is maybe, about a month removed from, like, from Guardians 1. And it's just like, she never, like, when we get introduced to her in Guardians 1, she never shown anything where it's like, yeah, join the Ravagers. Join the Ravagers. I don't know where that's come from. That seems like something that you need to see. We need to see how did she come to be joining the Ravagers out of everything, like, going on. It's like the thing with Gamora is, like, she is someone that wants to do the right thing. We have that in Guardians 1, like, she wants to do the right thing. Whereas here it's just like, nah, join the Ravagers. out of everything. But I think it's really just, we need a way of Gamora showing up with the Guardians and joining them in their adventure. So, she's part of the Ravagers. I don't get it. That makes no sense to me. But that to be honest, that's the least of my concerns when it comes to Gamora. I think some of the mentioned, it's pretty obvious. Well, Gamora is not recognizable in any sense of the word. She's a completely different person. When she doesn't represent anything like from when she's first introduced in Guardians 1. I'm not talking about the end of the first Guardians film, but like the introduction of her into that film. She does not in any way sort of represent that character as a completely different person. So that's why I've got a lot of issues with her. I would have rather if they just didn't have her in the movie, because she's like really dumb. She like says stuff where it's like, what you can't figure out why these characters would be making this decision. Yet you're Gamora that knew like your dad Thanos was, what he was doing was wrong. You knew what was right. You went out your way to do the right things in the first Guardians film. And now, there's certain things you just can't seem to grasp why characters would care about a certain thing. But again, getting a bit ahead of myself. It only gets worse, really, with Gamora. Her being a Ravager is really the least of it. It's just, it's one of those decisions. I suppose it's very similar to like Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, in the sense of you have what's his name? You have Paul Rudd write a book. It's like, why? When did he ever express any interest in writing a book? It's very similar to that, where it's just like a decision has been made where the character is doing this, but it's just like, it don't quite make any sense. It's not something that we've seen where we would go, yeah, she would join the Ravagers. So that's a little weird, a little strange, a very strange decision. We've honestly barely scratched the surface of this film. I think we're only about 20 minutes in so far, and we've almost been going over an hour. So yeah, it's gonna take me a fucking long time. So yeah, they explain, we've got an appointment with Gamora. Peter's like, what, to Nebula, why didn't you tell me it was Gamora you were contacting? That's because, he'd freak out about it. Gamora's a fucking Ravager. What the fuck? But yeah, it's just like, I hate, because I wrote in my notes sort of like, she hates her dad, Thanos, so join the Ravagers. That really comes out of nowhere. I'm trying to get away from the Ravager stuff now, but it's like, in my notes, it's still fucking there. So then you've of course got Sylvester Stallone. He turns up and says some things, like a lot of things, like, the exposition is really, again, a bit clunky. We are told, what the plan is. It's like, well, we know what the plan is. We already know that, we're going to Orgo Corp to get this override thing for the kill switch. To save Rocket. And you have him say that. It's like, yeah, we know. We already know. Again, I don't know why things do that. It's like, well, you can cut that out. The audience already knows that, so we can already infer what the plan is. It's something that you don't need. So he's like, we've got to go over that first. So, Sylvester Stallone provides, our Guardians, like, Orgo Corp uniforms. And then they need to explain to them what the uniforms are for. I'm like, why are you explaining? These uniforms are obviously, so when you break into Orgo Corp, you're not, you look as if you belong. You're in a uniform, So that's the reason. And you have Sylvester Stallone explain this. I'm like, well, it's obvious. I don't know why. I don't know why it's being explained. Yeah, because I think it's Drax. Is it Drax? I'm pretty sure someone says, "What are the uniforms for?" It's like, it's fucking obvious. Then you get like a little joke because it's like essentially orange jumpsuits. Drax is like, "Have you got anything else?" Because orange clashes with my eyes. So I suppose he got a bit of a smirk out of me, I think. So Mantis is then like, "Oh, thanks for helping, Gamora." And then we have Gamora say a line, which again just comes back to, "You're not Gamora. You're not Gamora in any way, shape, or form." Gamora says, "I'm not doing this out of the kindness of my heart. I'm doing it for money." Yet you jump back to Gamora in Guardians 1, round about, what would we say, about 20 minutes in? Or half an hour, when they go and meet the Collector, that falls apart. You have Rocket say, "Why don't we just give it to I'm forgetting his name now. Why don't we just give it to Ronan and be done with it?" And then Gamora's like, "No, we can't do that. We got to do the right thing." Yet now she's like, "I'm doing this for money." What? I just, again, it's just in no way, shape, or form is Gamora like Gamora. Just a different person, a different character. And it's really, really annoying because I do really like Gamora. I think she's a really good fucking character. Unfortunately, in fucking Endgame, they made those stupid decisions, didn't they? So then Sylvester Stallone tells them about the place they're going to be going in, what the plan is. He says, Orgo Corp is in possession of some of the most advanced tech. Remember, this is a place that has some of the most advanced tech. They're heavily guarded by the deadly. The reason why I highlight that word is because they're not actually that fucking deadly. Deadly Orgo sentries, which is guys in these... does anyone know what the Michelin Man is? It's like that. That's what they dressed in. I'm like, just how is that good for maneuverability? Like in these sort of Michelin Man fucking costumes where you can't really move about properly. I don't. That's a choice, I guess. So already it's like, so we've now got the information where it's like, so really this Orgo Corp should be near impossible to get into. No, it's really easy, and they made the building out of flesh that you can easily cut through. Yet they're in possession of the most advanced tech. So yeah, then he says, so Gamora will lead you to the information you need. And then he sort of, that's the part where he re-explains. Get the information you need, and then you can save the raccoon. Right? Yeah, we know that. We know what that's for. So yeah, then we get cut to another rocket flashback, which every time you get one of these flashbacks, they're like really good. So that's always good to get. So it's like flashbacks to Rocket as a young man. And he's sitting on the High Evolutionary's lap, solving equations and stuff like that. And then like it's kind of just Rocket asking questions like what does he say? Yeah, he's just like pointing out the window like sky, Rocket. So it's all that sort of stuff, and the like High Evolutionary says, that's the new world. That's counter Earth. That's where the experiments will go. Our specimens. That's where they will go and live. So like a lot of the the animals are under the impression that that's where they're gonna be going. But that I think that comes up later, doesn't it? So there's like music playing, and Rocket is like, what sounds? He says, oh, that's music. He like the High Evolutionary like translates the song that it roughly translates into "be not as you are, but as you should be. So again, it's, you know, they're going for the, you know, the perfection angle, whereas, you know, don't, you know, be not as you are, but as you should be. So that's the sort of, you know, thematic element they're bringing into it. It's just, it's not really. I guess the word you would use is undercooked. That's probably the best word for it. But that's essentially what we got with this guy. It's like, oh, he's you know, he's obsessed with perfection. That is what he's looking for. That is the point in his experiments. Is he's looking for perfection. But you know, we get into that a bit later on. You know, he's like, it's our secret mission. Does he say secret mission? Yeah. Not to take the. I fucked up whatever I've typed out here. It doesn't make any sense. It's our secret mission to take like imperfect material of biological matter and make it perfect. And we're halfway there. He then takes Rocket into a different room and like shows him what they've been working on. And then it's like they put a turtle or a tortoise into like a, what do you call it? Into like just, you know, a closed off little room. Why can't I think of what it's called? And like they do what they usually do to their experiments. So it turns into a turtle man, but like really violent. They can't quite figure out why these specimens are turning violent. It's like he says, oh, they produce too much of this. So then Rocket like figures out what the problem is. He points out, oh, well, the filtration is not taking out this, that, the other. You know, it's not something I'm going to repeat because it's like a lot of long words. So that's like Rocket figures out what the problem is, and that comes up later on. Yeah, and even kind of more to, you know, add those little layers of what our villain is, you know, what his motivation is. You know, even when like Rocket is saying like can't, he's saying that like can't, you can't. You know, the high evolutionary is like can't. You know, really annoyed with him. And that's that flashback. And we're now half an hour in. How the fuck am I still here? Half an hour in. Takes a lot of time. I better have a drink now, actually, since we kind of... I've always got to remember to bring myself a drink, because otherwise I just end up with a dry mouth and it's hard to fucking talk. But that's where we are. We're now half an hour in. Awkward silence. So, yeah, so now we've got the OrgoCorp heist. So what we have is they you know, we were told about the deadly OrgoCorp sentries. For some reason they're nowhere to be seen, even though like earlier we've seen them floating about. They float about outside the building, yet there's like none of them here. There's like no sentries. They then like land on this flesh, and then they have Nebula cut a hole into it to get inside of the building. You know, that's when I think there's something in there. I think there was a clip release of this, but you know, it's the stuff when they're in like the purple, orange, yellow, you know, blue suits. So that's what part we've got. So yes, so Nebula like burns a hole open into this. And then you have like Peter talks to Gamora about, you know, oh, we loved each other, you know, that sort of stuff. Like, you know, they're still going for the, you know, he's not over her, and she's just like, oh, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. You know, she gets his name wrong and all that sort of stuff. And then it turns into the joke about oh, you pressed the wrong button. We can all hear what you're saying, Peter. Just like that's, you know, without thinking about it on its own, that joke is a little funny. You know, it's not really anything refreshing, but it's one of those jokes that doesn't actually make any sense. It doesn't make sense why to talk to a specific suit. Like Gamora's in a blue suit, so if you want to talk to a blue suit, you have to press like the orange button. I'm just like, how the fuck does that make any sense? It really doesn't make any sense. You should have just had it. Oh, he didn't press the button right, or something like that. But it's one of those jokes that doesn't quite make much sense. But that's, fair enough. So yeah, that's kind of what we get there. He's not over Gamora. I just like, again, there's like little elements of this in the beginning of the film. After a while, it all just gets fucking lost in translation. I don't know what happens. So yeah, so then they're going through this hole, the hole they've put in it, and then Drax gets like stuck. He get like, for some reason Nebula didn't make a big enough hole. I don't know why. So Drax gets stuck in there, so they're trying to pull him out. You then have like the person, whoever the person is that watches the cameras, like within this corporation. Like she like, alerts one of her like master, whatever his name is. She's like, there appears to be a physical breach in this area. He's like, well, could it be a glitch or anything like that? But they go and check it out. This is like Peter and that are trying to get rid of their spacesuits. They're trying to put it somewhere to get for later. That's basically a joke. We'll talk about that in a second. So they put that in, and then it's the thing, like the guards come in, and then Peter just does the sort of, oh, if you act confident enough, they believe that we belong here. So that's kind of what he does there. Yeah, and also before they came into the room, Nebula there's like a little eye in these places that is a camera, and they put something over it, so it's like a loop. So it's just like, oh no, everything's fine in this. So it's like, surely if you were to report back to the person using cameras, they would go, like, if you said, oh no, we're in this particular room, there's people in it, and then like the person at the cameras sees that, oh, there's nobody in there. Where are you? So then that would, surely that would happen, wouldn't it? You just go, no, everything checks out. It's fine. There was just a few people in there, and then she'd look at the cameras like, there's no people in there. So that's one thing where I'm like, well, yeah, that probably would have played out like that, would it? So yeah, then it turns out that the little thing that they put their spacesuits into is actually like a decontamination bin. Like, you put stuff in there and close it, and it puts the stuff out into space. So they don't have their escape, although they do. They do really. That I'm gonna leave for a minute. I want to get through this stuff before I actually bring it up, because this stuff is honestly pointless. So that's what they do. So they haven't got a way to escape, because they've lost their spacesuits. So it was Mantis that put them in there. Like, everybody's seen, like, handed it to her to put in there, and then they blame her for them being put out into space. It's like, no, you're all complicit in that. You all seen what it was, because it's Gamora that says, you idiot, you just threw them in the contamination bin. It flushes when you shut it. And it's like, well, we had a scene of Gamora literally looking at the thing. You didn't mention it then. So they all, like, jump on Mantis. So it's not her fault. I mean, really, Gamora knew exactly what it was. And Gamora seen it. And didn't say anything. All right, then. So, Nebula is like, Mantis, why don't you ever think? Because that's kind of what you got. Mantis is one of those characters in this where I'm not a fan of Mantis. I really, she doesn't have a purpose. There's really no purpose. She really doesn't do anything. She's one of the characters I mentioned that does very little. Does very little at all. So I'm just always just like, why is she here? She's essentially there for the odd joke. That's about it. But she's really doesn't have much purpose. There's not really much point to her. So now with that happening, they've now got to get Groot to land inside this big fleshy building. So what they need is Drax and Mantis to go and make sure the port is able to let Groot in. And the rest of them are going to get the information we know. Gamora knows exactly where it is. I highlight that for a reason. It will become obvious later. So yeah, they bump into. We have like an Asian guy in this film that is one of the High Evolutionary's minions. They bump into that guy in this place, because as we have it, for some reason the High Evolutionary knew that they were going to go there, even though he has no information to even make that assumption. So that's why that guy's there. So that comes up a bit later. We get like a little joke where Mantis, like, for Mantis and Drax to get through this gate, Mantis like hypnotizes or like touches the guard and says, "Oh, you're in love with him," like pointing at Drax. So I guess a little funny joke, really, not hilarious, but I guess it passes. Where she just goes, "You're in love with this guy," and then the guy's like, "Oh, hey, what's your name?" And Drax is like, "Drax the Destroyer." So it's it's quite funny. But that's all that was. As they're going through the place, like on the big TV screens, you've got the High Evolutionary on there. He's the guy that he owns this company. And then as they're walking, as Mantis and Drax are walking through this place to go and sort out the spaceport stuff, you then have people look at the cameras and they say, oh, that warning we got earlier, they match the description, so that's why that Asian guy was here, to warn them about the description of the Guardians. So that's when we then quickly cut over to what Peter and Gamora and Nebula are doing. Peter like there's like a woman that is in control of where the passkey is, where the information is. So Peter goes, "Oh, I'm gonna try and convince her to give us the information." So he goes over there. He's like, "Hi, I'm Patrick Swayze." So he does like sort of the dialogue out of that film to try and convince her to give up the information like freely, without having to resort to anything else. Before Peter even gets a little bit into what he's trying to do, you just have Gamora put a gun straight to her head, says, "Oh, I'm gonna kill you. You're of no use to us, so I'm just gonna kill you." It's like Gamora wouldn't do that. She wouldn't just kill an innocent person. So that's another thing where it's just so out of character. Based on the parameters of the start of Guardians 1. That's sort of the parameters of her character that I'm working within to, say she's out of character. That yes, it's not something she'd do, killing in. She hates her father, Thanos. She knows what Thanos is doing wrong, so it's like she wouldn't do that. But that's what Gamora's like in this film. She just wants to kill everyone for no reason. It's like, stop it. That's not what you would do. So yeah, the argument stuff I think that's when like the rest of the alarms start going off. So they've now got to figure out a plan on their feet. So yeah, we get like a little joke, another joke, where I think Peter is explaining to the woman that's in charge of all the all the files that like we used to be in love or something like that, and then like Gamora is like, "Oh no, that isn't me. That sounds more like Nebula." So then it's like a joke where both Nebula and Peter go like, "Nah, we no way would we do that." And then Peter sort of starts staring at like into Nebula's eyes. And it's just like a little joke about, she's like, "Oh, stop it. I'm not a lost puppy. Cut it out." And he's just like, it's the first time I realized how pretty your eyes were, how black your eyes were. It's just like, those are the eyes my father picked out of me. It was a part of torture. So you do get a joke, like, you know, I laughed at it. I found it a bit funny. So yeah, we then cut back to Mantis and Drax. They're now swarmed with all these deadly sentries, but not really. And they then get into a fight with all the sentry guys. And yeah, they seem to they've got guns, like the sentries. They have powerful weapons. Yet they like wait for Mantis to jump on them to control their emotions. Like, oh, you think you're a cat and all that. I'm like, why are you just letting her do that and not doing anything about it? They seem to just stand there while she does that. So yeah, you have like I don't know. Peter's like, we paid you, Gamora, to get us in and out without anyone knowing. Now you could have done that. You could have done that because you introduced a certain thing. And I've already mentioned the sentry suits that they have. It's like the Michelin Man. It's like it doesn't make any sense for maneuverability. I guess if you're out in space, maybe. Gamora then Gamora shoots an innocent woman. Why are you doing that? I don't know. Because it's not Gamora, that's why. So then you have our first fake out death, where Drax like just stands there and gets shot by one of the deadly sentries. So like it really does damage to him. And then Mantis goes over and picks him back up, and then a guy shoots him in the back. They play it as, oh no, he's dead. It's sad music. No, he's not dead. He's fine. He gets up and walks away. So it's just like, why do that? I really don't see the point in doing like fake out deaths. Because after a while, it's just like, oh, you're not really, there's no point to be concerned, is there? So I'm just like, why do that? But even then, it's this. That's why I question is like, how much damage can Drax take? He just got shot in the front. It's very obvious it really hurt him, and then he got shot in the back, and it's like, oh, he's dead. But now he's fine. I'm just like, wait, again, I don't know how much damage he is able to take without getting without like being able to get killed. I don't, because it seemed like he was dead. That really did him in. It was a gun, a powerful gun, space gun. Yeah, he's, perfectly fine. What they do is they go into slow-mo. They go in slow motion, so it makes sense. So that's pretty much that part. Like Nebula gets shot as well. She's fine. And then like Peter turns off the gravity for, I don't know how that works exactly. The deadly sentries, like in their Michelin Man suits, you can turn off the gravity for them, like like their suits like fly up into the air. Yeah, like nothing else does, or nobody else. And the screen that we see when Peter does that, it's like obvious that he's done something to the suits. So I don't know why that's a thing. Why they have, right? Okay. So that kind of brings me. Oh wait, are we at this bit yet? I don't know. How did we get to this bit? We get like the little rocket flashback with the the clip they put out again, which is they come up with their own names. And it's another nice little scene. They're just lying on the floor. They're like, oh, we're going to be going to this new world, and we're going to need names. LG 34, whatever it is she says. That's not really a name. So that's when they all come up with their own names. Like the otter is Lila, the sea lion is Teefs, but like with an F, I think. And then the rabbit is like Floor. And then then Rocket comes up with his name, like, oh, Rocket, because I'm gonna fly in the rocket with all my friends. So it's got quite a nice little scene. I do quite like that scene. And then we can kind of move back on to this passkey business. And this is the stuff where you kind of break the movie. It does kind of fuck the movie over a little bit, at least for a couple of parts of the movie, where they, it cuts back to them. They see a video of what was done to Rocket, like the animal cruelty stuff. We don't get a look at it. We just see the reactions of the other characters. But I think it's a good way to do it. See how they view it, kind of thing. Which, I mean, it's pretty obvious how you would view it. And then they find out that the passkey that they went to get has been deleted. And it's now downloaded into that Asian guy I mentioned earlier. So what we just done there for the past 20 minutes was a complete fucking waste of time. Because we don't have any information. It's just like, oh, actually you got to go here now. So it's like we're watching Mando Season 3. I'm like, why did you create this fetch quest and then not follow through on it? It's like, it'd be a bit different if you went there and you got exactly what you needed. Right, that's fair enough. But it's the fact that we spent all this time to go here and do this, and then it's like a waste. It's like, again, you got this time here to do something meaningful with, and you wasted it on, oh, what if there was a space station made out of flesh? You resorted to that rather than something more meaningful. So that's the part of the movie that really just pisses me off, because it's a complete waste. It's just a side quest that they don't get anything out of. It's just that actually you got to go here now, which then brings me to an even worse thing that they've done. So you remember I mentioned the sorcerer that the Ravagers have that can open up portals. Why did Gamora not ask him for help when it came to getting this information? You could have just portaled in there, portaled out. Gamora knows where the files are. So you could have used the sorcerer. So it's another instance of they added, oh, it'd be pretty cool if there was a sorcerer on the Ravagers team for some reason. But you haven't thought about the implication of that is where we can use him. That's a very convenient thing to have. So you can just portal in to this Orgocorp and then portal out. Or you could have portaled in, you figure out, oh, the Asian guy, he's got the stuff in his head. And then you can portal to that guy. We already know you can portal to people. We've seen it in No Way Home, where they're looking for Peter Parker, and then it gives them two of the Peter Parkers. So that is something it does. But no, you added this thing in and didn't think about it. So that really breaks that part of the movie, where it's just like, get the sorcerer guy. That's all you can do now. You can just go get the sorcerer guy. Get the sorcerer guy. He can open up portals. Oh, you're stuck in the Orgocorp. Sorcerer. That's where you've went wrong here. Because you could have had that part as well and just go, no, the information ain't there. We can go now. But instead you wasted 20 minutes on it. That's just really, I don't know how they didn't think about it. I don't know how they missed it. That a sorcerer can open up portals directly into this corporation. And we don't need all that stuff that just happened. But it honestly seems like to me it was just, I think James Gunn probably thought it was a cool idea. He said, oh, what if there is a space station made out of flesh? That's what it seems like, because it's pointless. So that bit there is really, really annoying. But that's the decision that they've made. Okay. So yeah, we get a bit more information about the High Evolutionary. I think from Gamora, because Gamora knows who it is. She's like, he's a guy that created whole civilizations, that sort of stuff. We then realize, oh, it's that Asian guy. He had in the computer on his head, he has these deleted files that what are they called? The override for the kill switch. That Asian guy has it. And then, yeah, I think you have Peter that says, so if we find him, we find Rocket, and then I just have to jump back to, oh, well, you could get the sorcerer then. That would save you a bit of time. You can just open up a portal straight to that guy. So, yeah, I think that, yeah, they find out the coordinates of where they, I don't know where they got the coordinates from. You know, it doesn't seem like the High Evolutionary is someone that is hiding or anything like that. So, you know, I guess it would be pretty easy to figure out where he is, but he's on some planet, which we're eventually going to get to. And then, yeah, like, Gamora's Gamora doesn't seem to understand why the Guardians would want to go after the High Evolutionary. She's like, it's clearly a trap. You know, Peter's like, it's a face-off. But she's saying, oh, this guy's 1,000 times stronger than you are. Just drop me off with the Ravagers. I don't want to... Like, she can't understand that, the reason why they would go up against someone 1,000 times stronger than you is to save their friend. How are you not understanding that? How can you not realize why they're doing that? It's like, again, it's just... hashtag not my Gamora. That's really all I need to say. Because she's just really... I don't know how you don't understand that. Whatever. I don't know why you've made this decision. You shouldn't have had her in there. What really should have happened is when they killed her off the first time, she should have just remained dead. Works a lot better that way. Rather than going, no, she's actually back again, and she's not the same as... She's not who she should be. Not who she should be when we were introduced to her in Guardians 1. But that's what we've done. So yeah, already, like, even though she's like one of these she's like does the right thing, and she's just like, no, I don't want to part in this. Drop me off with the Ravager friends that I for some reason joined. Right, okay. So then you have Peter say to her, like, I know you always wanted a family. My Gamora, she didn't find it with criminals. She found it with us, people who care about you. I know that's who you still are. And it's just like, you're just pointing out more reasons why she isn't in character. And then she like attacks Peter. She like throws him into a wall. And like he doesn't really do anything about it. He doesn't say anything back to her. She starts going, what are you so afraid of in yourself that you need me to be someone for you? It's like, well, it's pretty obvious. We know why. I don't give a shit about your Gamora. Life made me mean. No, it didn't. We were introduced to you in Guardians 1. That's the character you are. Like, when we're introduced, not because I know people are going to bring up, she was different at the end of Guardians 1. I'm talking about the very start of Guardians 1. She's not in character with that. She wasn't someone like, life made me mean. I don't care about no one. I don't care about doing the right thing. And for some reason, she's dumb as well. It's like, why Peter wants you to be someone. It's like you were the person he loved. How is that not obvious? So then, like, as she's about to punch him again, Nebula steps in. She's like, we're not gonna risk Rocket's life to make yours convenient. Because Gamora wants to get dropped off with the Ravagers, and they need to go. Like, Rocket doesn't have long left, so they're like, no, we're not dropping you off. But yeah, again, I don't know why Peter wouldn't say anything else. Like, after that. Okay, I guess. So then we get another scene with Adam Warlock, which, yeah, this was a scene I found funny. I did find this was one of the ones that I did kind of laugh out loud at. But they have one of the Ravagers. Like, they found at first I was like, why do they have a Ravager there? But one of the guys, one of the deadly Oscorp sentries, the Orgocorp sentries, was like out, I don't know, doing something. So they've brought him here, and you have the Sovereign, you have Adam Warlock's mother there as well. The mother says to Adam, "Oh, show this Ravager we mean business." And then Adam disintegrates the guy. Where it's like, well, that's not what she asked. So she's like, I said, show him we mean business, not disintegrate him. And Adam's like, what business could we have shown him? Let's just question the man's friend. And it's like a little animal. So I did find that quite funny. He's just like, oh, it looks sad. I don't enjoy how it's making me feel. So that joke I did find funny, but it's very again, I've thought about this part. Like so they have a Ravager that has just been disintegrated, yet his little radio is still fine. How did that happen? I don't know. I don't know, but we need a way to have Adam find out where the Guardians are. So at that point, we have Gamora radio in, and then so the Sovereign hear this, and they're like, "Oh, we know where you are now." They upload a location to them and everything, like Gamora does, because she wants to leave that much. But that's a very unlucky thing. Although, is it really? Does it have much effect? Not really, I suppose. But it is a little weird that a guy gets disintegrated, yet his radio on his body is fine. It's like, it's plastic, though. It's just a radio. I don't know why that's still fine. So, yeah, so now Adam Warlock knows where they are. We did not get enough of Adam. Not enough of him. And they try and convince us at the end of the movie that he's had an arc. It's like, no, he's barely been in it. You could. It's honest. Again, it's just a movie filled with missed opportunities. You had that bit at the start where he beats them all, and then it's you have them manage to beat him at the end of the movie, but he's not in it enough. He's really not in it enough. So yeah, then I think we go back. So we then go back on what's going on. It's like a weird analogy joke. About how, Mantis gets Drax to go up to Peter and say to him, "Oh, you're on a lily pad, but you should be swimming." It's essentially there's plenty of fish in the sea. That's what it really, and then it just goes into a bit of a joke, and that's pretty much all it is. Even this stuff now with getting over Gamora is just becoming more and more non-existent. It's like at this point it disappears. It's like, now we're not doing that anymore. And then they act as if at the end of the movie that, oh no, Peter has finally gotten over Gamora, even though they don't really put the work in. They don't really put the groundwork into it. So then we get another Rocket flashback. We're almost at the hour mark. How the fuck are we still going? It takes a very long time, unfortunately. So yeah, like the next Rocket flashback is, the High Evolutionary comes into where his cage is. It seems like he's drunk or happy. I'm not quite sure what it is, but it turns out that what Rocket told him to do worked. The filtration stuff. That's why your specimens are turning violent. That's now works. So now he takes Rocket into the place and shows him this, where the people, the animals turn into like humanoids, and like peaceful. And he's a bit, the High Evolutionary is like, oh, how did you know? He shouts, how did you know I made you? How is it a possibility that me making you would make you like smarter than me, essentially? So again, he does really have an ego. And yeah, I think the High Evolutionary mentions now these specimens will be going to the New World. And then Rocket goes, "Oh, we're finally going to the new world." Um, and that's when we find out, oh, the animals of Batch 89 are actually not going to the new world. They're actually going to be incinerated. So you have like the High Evolutionary mention, look at you. It's as if you were, he sees Rocket as imperfection. It's not something that is not perfect. He says, look at you. It's as if you were put together by fat-fingered children. All you are to me is just something that I can learn from and apply to those who matter. I still want to study your brain because the Rocket, figured out the problem that they couldn't, and that's something that comes up later on. That is the reason for why he's still after Rocket, because Rocket is the only one that ever, as he says later on, knew invention. He knew how to do something that none of us knew, that sort of stuff. So he then gets put back into his cage. Or do we? I think we come back to that actually. Yeah, we come back to. So yeah, he doesn't get put in his cage yet, but that's so Batch 89 are going to get incinerated. They're going to. Well, they're not. Are they going to kill Rocket? Did they? Well, or rather, did they plan on killing him? Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did. I don't know. Yeah, because they said, "Oh, put him back with the others to be incinerated." Yeah, but you wanted to study his brain, so I don't know why you just said that. But that's that for that flashback. Again, the flashbacks are still just like the really good part of the movie. So that brings us to the hour mark of the movie. Jesus Christ, how the fuck am I still here? It's the same every time. You always think, I'll get through it pretty quickly, and then you're still here. I'm gonna have to start bashing through some of it. I better have a quick drink because I haven't got long left till my dinner, so I better fucking start getting a move on. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to do a part 2 of this, aren't I? So yeah, we've almost been going 2 hours. That's fucking nuts. So I think that's. So yeah, I'm gonna have to. I might have to fucking stop this like halfway through, just because I've been going as long as I've been going. I hope I don't have to. So let's just get moving. Let's bang in the bang through blast words. Blast through this. So yeah, then that's when we come to Counter Earth, which is we talk a bit about what that is later on. So we'll leave it for now. So it's like Nebula and Peter are sort of standing over Rocket. Nebula's like, oh, he's dying. He hasn't got long left. And then it's like the next second you got 80s pop song. It's like fucking hell. It's like you just talked about this character dying, and then you go, oh right, play a pop song now. So it's a few times that happens where it's just like it's very. It doesn't quite fit the tone. It really doesn't. So we get a little they land on this Counter Earth, and it's all like animal people, like pandas that are humanoid. So that's what Counter Earth is. We then get a little scene of Adam and his mother, following them. It's like a little joke with the little animal that the Ravager had. Adam is now, it's now his pet. And yeah, like his mum's like, oh, it's, you shouldn't have that. It's against our culture. He's like, he's kind of like, he's like, I am the warlock, mum. I'm tired of being ordered around. So, I guess with some of the Adam stuff, it's, I guess, consistent. But it's just, yeah, they don't really do much with him. So then we finally have the Counter Earth because they land. We get the scene where Drax throws a ball at a little girl's face. It's something that they do really play up now as Drax being really fucking stupid. It's like I really don't know what happened to Drax because he was never like dumb. He was just more of, I don't understand what you're saying. When you say something like a metaphor, I don't get it. You know, when you do actions like this, I don't understand it because I just don't know about it. I've never, so he was never really that dumb. He was maybe a little, but they seem to over the years just made him dumber and dumber and dumber. It's just really really annoying after a while. So I don't know why he's so dumb. So yeah, so then they help this woman. It's a bat woman person, something like that. It got big bat ears, so it must be. It's like fruit bat ears, something like that. So then it's like a joke about like Drax lays down on a couch, like they go in there, so you know, being, you know, bringing them a bit of hospitality, and then yeah, like Drax starts like kicking up on their sofa, so like Nebula's like, Drax, what the fuck are you doing? And this is like a joke. It like happens like about 5 times. You know, they turn away. He lays back on the couch. They're like, "Oh, get off that couch." He sits up again, and it's like yeah, it wasn't funny the first time. So we've now got a couple of instances of that where it's just like the joke didn't work the first time. You're committing to it. You're committed to the joke. So yeah, they're trying to, because like these people don't speak English, so they're trying to explain to them that they're looking for the High Evolutionary. They start arguing about stuff. It's like, why? Then the Bat Lady points out to the building that is, you know, I find it funny they didn't just go straight there because it's like obvious. It's like the only big red pyramid type thing about. It's clearly over there. So yeah, she tells them where it is, and then they're like, "Oh, can we borrow your car?" And then that's where that joke I really like. The joke with the car where she goes to open it and can't figure out how to do it, and then we get like our first F-bomb. You know, used in a funny place. But that's like apparently our first F word in the MCU. Is it not like in PG-13s you can have like one? Like, you can have, like, one fuck in there. I think that's what I heard, anyway. But, yeah, it was used in at least on a funny joke, so that's fine, I guess. So, like, they're going to go off. They're like, you know, you and Mantis stay here and watch over Rocket. Drax is like, no, I want to come. So then he has to tell Mantis to watch over Drax in case Drax fucks off. So you may see where I'm going. So yeah, like you have like Gamora, because Gamora's still on the ship waiting to be picked up. She's like going through Peter's bag. You know, it's a picture with his granddad on it. So they're really trying to put that in. And it's just like, well, you again, once we reach the end of the movie, they don't do much to justify it. They don't do much to justify a certain decision. But that's what they try and do with this. You know, as Nebula, because it's Nebula, Groot, and Peter, they go off to meet the High Evolutionary. So they're like driving through this place. You know, there's parts of it are crime-ridden, and like Nebula's like, this is the perfect society. So that's going to come up a little later. Again, you're dealing with someone that is a perfectionist, the High Evolutionary. So that's probably not going to fly with him. That's probably not what he's looking for out of the civilizations he creates. So there's definitely a justification for why that later on happens. So they get to the High Evolutionary's base. We see the High Evolutionary first. He's watching this girl run round and round like a hamster wheel. You know, he's explaining to like the Asian guy, you know, this one has been running for 2 hours without breaking a sweat. It can live on 30 calories a day. They're always happy. And like, well, these like subjects are for like their new colony. They're like little kids, little girls. So so it shows you what he has been able to do with these, you know, specimens. And it kind of shows what he hasn't been able to do. Which is, it comes up a little later on. So you have Nebula, Groot, and Peter. They get to the gates. And there's like an eagle man and a pig man. called War Pig, like just these big brutes that are, you know, they're the guards at the front, and they say, you know, when they turn up, they're like that, like they point at Nebula and they're like, she has to stay here because she's a weapon, which is, you know, that's smart. That's a smart idea. You don't want Nebula going in there because she is a weapon. She's got, you know, I didn't mention it, but she's now got a sort of arm that does different types of stuff. So she's like a weapon, so it's like, yeah, you wouldn't want her going in. But then it's like, well, we then have a tree. How is Groot not essentially the same thing? A weapon. But they let Groot in there. You know, it's obvious to why they let Groot in there. Because otherwise we'd have someone jumping out a window with fucking no one to save them. But even there, it's just, yeah, again, it's just like, why would they let Groot go in? He's pretty much in the same position as Nebula. And another thing to mention is they scan Peter to see if he's clean for weapons, yet they don't do it with Groot, which is funny, because later on when they go into the High Evolutionary's base, he has about 15 guns on him, and they didn't think to scan him. So that's very stupid. Again, the stuff with keeping Nebula out there, that makes sense, but then not keeping Groot out there. So yeah, then we get another. We then go back to the flashback section. Rocket gets like flung in his cell. Yeah, he gets put back in his cell after seeing, you know, and after learning that these creatures of Batch 89 they're not going to be going to the New World. So he goes in there. He starts building this sort of key card thing. It's something that we get a glimpse of at the very start of the movie. You know, it kind of looks at it like, you know, it's got some memory sort of importance. It's from his past importance sort of stuff. So he starts building this thing. He explains to like Lila and all that that we're not going to the New World. They're going to kill us. So like the other two are like, that's not true. Lila's kind of like looking at him. And then you know, he goes on to explain to them, listen, there's ships down there. If we can get there, I can pilot it and get us out of here, like we always said we would. Like you know, travel space together. So he opens his cell, and him and the rabbit share a cell. They both get out, and then he uses the key card on the cell that Lila is in. So Lila gets out and they, you know, hug and all that sort of stuff. And then she gets shot. She gets killed. The High Evolutionary turns up behind her and shoots her. And yeah, I think like her last, the High Evolutionary goes, you know, I figured, you'd try something like this. Get back in your cage. And then Lila's sort of last words is, you know, she's looking up and says, "Sky." And then, you know, it's probably the best sort of CGI sort of performance I've ever seen. Like the way they do the, what's his name? Fucking Bradley. The way he does like sort of, because Rocket like screams, you know, like cries, and it really is well done. It's fucking getting me now, but it's a really well done one, where it's just like, holy fuck, man. You know, and it's CGI. It is really well done, that. So yeah, he's like kind of screams, he cries, and then he attacks. He attacks a High Evolutionary, like you know with his fucking claws. So that's why like present day he's got too long a name. I'm sorry. The High Evolutionary is too fucking long. The High Evolutionary is... That's what... Yeah, in present day, the High Evolutionary has, like, a mask over his face. I think it's to do with that Rocket fucked up his face a bit. You know, scratched it. And it's a guy that's obsessed with perfection. So he attacks, and then you have guards come in that start shooting and all that. Rocket picks up the evolutionary's gun and starts shooting them, and then he turns around and realizes that the other two have been killed as well. I think the bullets hit, Floor, which is the rabbit, and Teeths, which is the sea lion. So he turns around and sees them also dead. So he just kind of stands looking for a bit, and then he decides to make his escape. So he's running through the place. He's running through the place. He jumps into a ship and then leaves in the ship. And again, that's the good thing they do with Rocket is, the stuff we've seen from him in Guardians 1 and 2, seeing what his past is, it makes sense for why he sort of is the way he is. Like in Guardians 2, he's trying to like push away everybody. He doesn't quite want to get attached with them. And it's like, it's probably because of this. Because people that he did once get attached to end up getting killed. Something he blames himself for. So that's, they do stuff like that where it's like, some of it is almost like they have thought it through. When they've been doing Guardians 1 and 2, they have thought about, why Rocket would be like this. So it's really good. That sort of scream, that cry that he does, is really fucking good. It's really good. So I suppose the sort of props go to Bradley Cooper for that, because I don't think I've seen something sort of as compelling as that when it's just sort of voice acting, not to sort of downplay anything. And the fact you're doing it with CGI and all that sort of stuff as well. So that was really a good moment. That's kind of the end of our origin for Rocket. For now, anyway. I think we might get a bit later on. Then we cut back to Drax and Mantis. They have been ordered to watch over Rocket. And Drax knocks a guy off a motorbike and is like, "Oh, we're going. We need to," and Mantis is like, "We need to protect Rocket. That's what we've been told to do." And Drax is like, "Oh, they should know that I don't do what they say. No, you got to protect Rocket, you fucking dickhead." Again, it's like you've done this clearly for some sort of joke. But why would Drax and Mantis leave Rocket on his own when it's obvious that anyone could come and get him if they're not there? So maybe don't leave, but they do. I don't know why that's a decision that gets made. It's really, really irritating. It's the one I mentioned where it was when I was done my first watch through. I was like, no, don't do that, don't do, and they do it. They do it. They fuck off. And Mantis basically does nothing about it. He tricks her into getting on the bike by saying, "Oh yeah, we're just going to ride it back to the ship because the ship is just a little over there." And she jumps on, and then he just rides off, and she does nothing. So you've left Rocket on his own. He's not in any state to protect himself. And you've left when it's like, the guy that wants him is in that building over there. Could send someone off, like he does. So, and Drax and Mantis have left. It's like, what are you doing? So, they've kind of fucked the both of them by making that decision. I don't know why they made that decision. You could, because it doesn't change anything. So it's like, why would you not just have them stay at the ship? I guess it changes something that we'll get to at some point. So that's a decision that gets made. I don't know why. It doesn't make sense whatsoever why they would leave him. They know he can't protect himself at the moment. Okay, so then we we finally get into the High Evolutionary's office. And this is again another part of the movie where it's like there's stuff here to talk about and it doesn't get talked about. Like the High Evolutionary he's like put his finger up, like, I'll talk to you in a minute. Like he's doing something else. So eventually Peter sees the Asian guy with a computer on his head, and like he confronts him, like saying, "Oh, is that the? Have you got the override thing in that head of yours?" And then it's the High Evolutionary says, "Oh, you know, I would not recommend aggression in this place." So yeah, he goes into like something about his powers, but I'm just like, I don't know how you got there. You know, he's I didn't actually write it down, but you know, we'll just skip that part, I guess. But it was only like a little tiny sentence. But yeah, he says to Peter, it's like, "Oh, you must find Counter Earth familiar. I visited your world many years ago. Your people had wonderful spirit. The art, the music, and literature was some of the finest in the universe. Earth would be a fabulous place if not for the ignorance and bigotry. It inspired me to create Counter Earth, all of the good and none of the bad." So that's kind of like what he's trying to perfect what Earth is. You know, how he views people, the humans of Earth. So there's stuff you can get into. There's ideas to play with there, like Peter could say anything. He could say anything to that about perfection. Peter just says, "I don't care. I don't need another speech by some impotent whack job whose mother didn't love him, rationalizing why he needs to conquer the universe." So it's like, oh, so we're not going to explain that because I don't care. Well, that's seems to be the thematic element of the film, and you're just going to skip over that part of to get more, to explore sort of ideas of a perfect civilization society or an imperfect one. Could we ever have a these all these types of interesting things you can do, and it's just no, Peter doesn't care. He can't be doing. He's got nothing to say, got nothing to add. He's got nothing to argue against why the High Evolutionary's wrong. He got nothing. Just I don't care. So then the High Evolutionary says, "I'm not trying to conquer the universe. I'm trying to perfect it." Right, let's get into it then. No, Peter doesn't care. That part of the movie does really annoy me because it's just like there's stuff there to do with. Maybe if you didn't waste that 20 minutes in the Orgocorp stuff, you probably could. So yeah, eventually that war pig we mentioned, he gets sent off to go and get Rocket. As he's walking out with Rocket, because Gamora is still on the ship as well, just not paying attention to anything. Him and the war pig, like him and Gamora fight. Yeah, you even have like Gamora gets like really slammed in the metal, and it's like she's fine as well. There's just so many instances where it's like you should be at least hurt, rather than just, "Oh, I banged my back, but I'm fine again." No one ever seems to be like that they're in pain, whereas like you would be when you get flung into a metal arch. I think I'm kind of a bit all over the place at this part. Like Peter says to the High Evolutionary, "I just want the passkey." And then like the High Evolutionary is like, "Then bring me P13. Is what? Yeah, I'm just now noticing that, like, is that the right thing? Yeah. I want the passkey. Then bring me P13. Yeah, but if I bring you P13, like Rocket, I no longer need the passkey. So what? I don't know what that's about. Yeah, he's just like, Peter's like, "I know what you did to my friend. Anything I've done is," and then like, High Evolutionary says, "Anything I've done is for the betterment of the universe." Then Peter points out, well, better universes generally don't have octopuses selling meth to guys with cockroach heads. So that again, it's more stuff you can get into. It's just a missed opportunity. And the High Evolutionary responds to that saying, "Yeah, they do not, which is why, as I've done many times before, I'm going to have to erase it all and start again." So many times the High Evolutionary has built civilizations and destroyed them when they are not absolute perfection. But yeah, that's pretty much all we get on that. We can't explore further on, you know, could a perfect society ever exist? You know, none of these sort of discussions. It's just all pretty much glossed over. We get that little bit, and that's about it. That's all we seem to get. So yeah, as Rocket is being taken by this pig, yeah, I think then Adam comes in. Did he? Yeah, does that happen? I know because the High Evolutionary has gravity powers. He uses gravity to knock down Peter and Groot, and then we sort of jump back to the War Pig, where Adam flies in and takes out the War Pig. He's like, you know, where the War Pig says, we're on the same side. Adam is like, well, you know, I've got to do this for the credit, to save my entire civilization. And then he like rips the pig's head off. So that's when the planet starts exploding. You know, Adam loses his mother, gets killed, and all that. So the big, like, where the High Evolutionary's base is, it, you know, it flies. So he flies out of the planet and pretty much blows the planet up. Well, you know, it takes a while. It takes a bit of time for it actually to do the job. But, you know, you've got people left, right, and centre being, you know, disintegrated and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, so after that, you know, you've got all this stuff happening, explosions, Nebula like radios to Mantis, saying, you know, bring me the ship. We need the ship to get going. Of course, they're not fucking there, are they? So then she has to, like, so now Mantis and Drax have turned up there. So she has to radio to Gamora to leave on the ship with Rocket. So that's what they're gonna do. Meanwhile, on the ship that's now taking flight off, Groot like uses a little bomb, and then brings out all these guns. He had all these guns enclosed and encapsulated inside of him. And again, why did no one scan Groot for weapons? They did it with Peter, but didn't do it for Groot, and Groot's got about 15, maybe more, of these weapons just all coming out of him. It's like, fucking hell. I don't know why they missed that. So yeah, you know, Groot's a weapon. They stopped Nebula from going in there, but not Groot. A very silly decision. So yeah, like Nebula and the rest of them, they're down as this ship is still like going off, because it's, you know, it's. I think it goes deep into the core of the planet. So once you remove that then, you know, I guess destroys the planet. So Nebula and the rest of it, they jump onto the ship, which is going up into space. They haven't thought about it. They haven't fucking planned. That's another thing that comes up now and again. It's like, why is there no plan here? There never seems to be a plan. When Peter was going to go and meet with the High Evolutionary, he didn't come up with a plan. It was all just, you know, you can kind of get that in certain but it's like, at least have a plan to begin with. But they never really have a plan. It's always just, now we're going to throw ourselves into it, and not really think about it, rather than at least have a plan. It's like, it's fine to be able to what is the word I'm looking for? It's fine to, you know, figure it out at the time. You know, improvise, like we've seen in the past, like with, you know, Guardians 1. It's fine to do, but at this point, you've been the Guardians of the Galaxy for a very long time. You would think at this point they would come up with some type of plan. You know, this is more aimed at Peter, I guess, for what his plan was. It's like, especially when your friend's life is in danger. You know, he may die, so you may want to come up with a plan. And maybe if you have to improvise later, that's fine. But at least have a plan. But it's just never the case. But even Nebula and that jumping on the ship, they don't really have a plan. It's flying up into space. So yeah, so you've got Nebula and that they've jumped on the ship. Peter has jumped out the window with the Asian guy. He jumped out. He didn't even mention it to Groot first. He just jumped out the fucking window. So it's really lucky that Groot's there, because otherwise he'd just be bashed right into the floor, the ground. So Peter jumps out the window, grabbing that Asian guy, because the Asian guy's got the override passkey in his head. And yeah, again, doesn't mention it to Groot, so Groot like turns around like, what the fuck happened there? And then Groot like jumps out and catches Peter, catches the both of them, and then like wings sprout out of Groot's back. So you know they fly all the way down. But yeah, again, there was basically no plan there. It was just, I'm gonna meet with him, and that's it. Even though my friend's life is hanging in the balance. So yeah, Peter now they finally have the pass key, so they can now sort out Rocket. It then cuts back to Nebula and Mantis and Drax. They are now on this ship. They are at a door trying to get into it. It is now entering space. There's no gravity for some reason. I don't know why. You know, they are starting to, like, their hands are starting to freeze. And then Drax, like, quickly, he bashes down this door. I'm just like, what have you been doing this whole time then? You know, because it doesn't take him much. He just he bangs into this big solid door about 5 times and gets through it. So I don't know why that wasn't done ages ago. But yeah, I find it funny. They literally say, we're entering space. Why the fuck are we not floating then? They're standing as, you know, as we are now. So you know, I don't get, they've forgotten about gravity. So yeah, Drax beats the door down. Peter, Gamora, Groot, and Rocket, they've escaped the planet. A weird line from, just a line I find funny from Gamora. She says, "What kind of madman slaughters an entire planet?" Just like your dad was Thanos. I mean, if anybody's got an idea, it's probably you. Oh, which brings us to, we're now an hour and a half through this movie, so we ain't got too long to go. How much have we? Nah, not much, I suppose. We're sort of getting into the end game at this point. I might as well have another drink while I'm at it. But this has been a long one anyway. I don't know how it's taken me every time. It's like every time it ends up taking ages. I think the longest movie breakdown I've done so far is Shazam Part 2. Or Shazam 2, rather. Shazam Part 2. So, yeah, we're at an hour and a half now, so we are getting there. We're not far off. I reckon we can get through it in about 20 minutes. Because I'm fucking starving. I'm almost starting to think I should have started this like an hour earlier. So, yeah, so after them getting Drax and that beaten through this door, they're now in the ship. Drax is like, "Oh, you're lucky that I was here to beat down that door." And then that causes Nebula to fly off the handle, and Nebula is completely justified. Everything she says to them, she's absolutely justified. Like Nebula calls them out. You know, she goes up to Drax. She's like, "Rocket and Gamora are probably dead because of you, because you know they don't know if they're alive or not." So yeah, she's like, "Rocket and Gamora are probably dead because of you." Drax is like, I didn't know. I'm just like, you didn't know that leaving Rocket alone was a bad idea. Again, this idea that like Drax is like mentally retarded, it's just, I don't know where it comes from really. You know, when we get introduced to Drax in Guardians 1, he's very much more of fish out of water. When Peter says certain phrases to him, it's just Drax doesn't understand it. You know, that's where it. But then they just go, "Oh no, that means dumb. That means really, really dumb." You know, I can agree with him being a little dumb, but as dumb as he's portrayed now, no. So Nebula goes on to say, you know, when are you going to stop using the excuse of being a big dumb clown, contributing nothing, and the rest of us have got to pick up the slack? And again, she's right. Because throughout this movie so far, Drax is one of the characters that hasn't done anything. That really has not... He's fought a few people. But he hasn't really... Has he done anything purposeful? Not really. Just, again, they've not really... James Gunn hasn't really done well with juggling all these characters to give them something. So that's why we have Drax and Mantis, the most useful... the most useless of everyone... just not contributing anything, not really having a part to play. When it's like, well, see, to be honest, Mantis is one of those characters where it's like, you don't need her. Why is she a part of the Guardians of the Galaxy? All she can do is control people's emotions, that's it. Other than that, she's of no use to anything. So I don't really know why she's with the group. You know, she in Guardians 2, she was good in there, because she wasn't, like, one of the main characters. Whereas here, it's just like she's in there, but it's just not fucking important or nothing. I don't get why she's with them. But that's really this movie's biggest crime, at least for me, is characters don't get enough time. They aren't given enough attention, other than Rocket, which is, you know, I like the Rocket stuff. I think it should be here. I think there's just a better way to balance everything. You know, even at the same time, I'd rather for what we've went through so far, I would rather Rocket to actually be around, because it's just there's more there. We haven't had much of them interacting really, as you know, in the grand scheme of things. So that would have been a lot better. And like even with Drax, there's stuff to do with that, because unfortunately Endgame forgot. Because of Endgame, like Drax never fulfilled his arc. What was his arc? He was introduced in Guardians 1 as, you know, he wants to kill Ronan because Ronan killed his family. And then once they do take out Ronan, he's like, well, you know, Ronan was just following orders. The guy I really want is Thanos. Yet they forgot about it in Endgame. So he never fulfilled that arc. So what would have been nice to see in this is maybe that gets brought up. Maybe that gets brought up in some way that he never got to fulfill what he wanted to do. He never got what he set out to do. That he wanted Thanos dead for causing the death of his family. That's gone unaddressed. It's just gone completely unaddressed. So that's something that again, it should be in here. It should be in here, but it isn't. But again, that would be something that you can do with Drax. And I wouldn't be going, oh, he hasn't really got any purpose. I can't think of anything other than he might fight a few guys. There's maybe one thing where he knows a language, but doesn't mention it. So it's like, even then, it's like, how fucking dumb are you? So it's really frustrating. So yeah, like Mantis gets involved with this argument. Mantis is like, oh, don't, like, because Nebula pushes him. Mantis like, don't push him. He's, you know, what did she say? No, yeah, I haven't got to it yet. And then like, yeah, so Nebula even says to Mantis, oh, you're no better either. The only thing we can count on you for is when someone shows weakness, you'll be all right. You'll be right there to support it. And that's essentially it. It's like, you've got no reason to be on the Guardians team. I'm fine with, like, being at least a side character. Maybe you stayed at nowhere. You know, the Celestial Head. Maybe you stayed there, but you've got no reason really to be with them. The only I mean, in 2, you're there because, well, you got to be there. There's not really any other option for you. Whereas here, it's like, you don't. Why are you going with the Guardians anyway? What are you going to achieve? What are you gonna bring to the team? Because she's really just there again, similar to Drax, just as, oh, well, they make jokes. That's about it. Uh, so Nebula's continue on going, oh, he's a liability. So Mantis's response to that, he makes us laugh and he loves us. Yeah, I know, but he left Rocket on his own. That I can't forgive. Because that's something that is out of character. I don't believe Drax would do that. If he knows he's gotta watch over Rocket in case someone tries to get him, he wouldn't just piss off. I don't believe he would do that. But that's what they've had him do. But yeah, apparently that's bringing something. He makes us laugh and he loves us. That's all fine. That is fine. But you also actually have to do something. You can't just go, oh, well, he's there for some jokes. And he right. That's not really helping our current predicament. We're trying to save our friend. So yeah, Mantis is like, all you care about is competence. Well, yeah. Why that again? Nebula, I will praise because Nebula is definitely in character. Pretty much the entire film. She maybe makes the odd silly decision, but overall she's like the most consistent. One of the better characters in the film. I'm right there with her calling out the Mantis and Drax, just their only thing being incompetent. So at least she's there, because she's someone that is competent, and that's she excels in that. So she expects other people to try and at least bring that when they're going out doing missions. So they then shine a light on there's like kids in cages. I don't know if they're cats. I don't, because it's animals that have been turned into humanoid. So I don't think it's cats. I think it's just regular children that are a certain species. I'm not too sure. So yeah, they say like their language is sort of chub chub. It's like that. That's how they talk. Mantis is like, that language isn't in my translator. And then you get to a part later on, you find out Drax knows their language. Why the fuck? Why didn't you mention that? Again, it's so frustrating. Why would you not mention that you know their language? I don't know why you would mention that. So that's really annoying. So now we have like they're now trying to save Rocket. Gamora and Peter, they're trying to save him because they've now got the thing to override the kill switch. And then you kind of like Rocket goes into like a sort of afterlife. It's very, very, we've seen it in a lot of things where it's like they go to the light, they're there for a bit. So he goes to like the afterlife place. He sees like Lila. He's saying, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I let you down. I got you killed. She's like, the sky is beautiful and it's here forever with friends. Rocket say, can I come? And then it kind of jumps back to present, real world sort of stuff, where Rocket flatlines, and Peter is like, I'm not letting him go. He's screaming at like the top of his lungs, like, no. I'm pretty sure that was in the trailers, wasn't it? He's just like, I'm not letting him go. I'm not letting him die. So he like takes all the things off Rocket and then starts, pumping on his heart, doing that. So yeah, and then it cuts back to them. It cuts back to Rocket talking with Lila, after he said, can I come? And then she like, as he's walking there, she goes, not yet. You still have a purpose here. And Rocket is like, a purpose for what? They made us for nothing, just experiments, to be thrown away. There are hands that that was it. I started reading a different part of the dialogue there. But yeah, we're just experiments to be thrown away. Um, and Lila says to him, there are the hands that made us. Then there are the hands that guide the hands. So essentially, it doesn't matter like who or why we were created. You make your own decisions. So that's kind of what I think they're going for. The hands that made us. Then there are the hands that guide the hands. She's like, my beloved raccoon. This story has been yours all along. You just didn't know it. I'm not really sure. Is that supposed to be like some? I don't really know. This story has been yours all along. You just didn't know it. I'm still trying to figure that one out. And then he's like, as he's getting pulled back because he's been brought back to life. He shouts, I'm not a raccoon. Which it's something we get a good payoff for. I think just throughout like all the films. At the end of this, we do get quite a good payoff with like people, like when he doesn't like people calling him a raccoon. So yeah, like he comes back to life. He wakes up, and then him, Peter, and Groot all have like a hug. So yeah, really good stuff there. I think the afterlife stuff with like Lila was like really, again, I can't really complain about the Rockets side of things. It's just really well done. Very very heartfelt. It's got a lot of heart to it. So yeah, so now he's now awake. They know that Nebula is alive now because she radios in, so they know she's alive. Nebula tells them, "Oh, we jumped on the ship to save you, Peter. We were coming to get you." And Peter's like, "Oh, I told you not to. You got to know by now. I always figure out incredible ways to get out of a plan. To get out of a plan. Why did I write the word plan there? I wrote the right word plan. It's not the right word. Yeah, you got to know by now. I always figure out incredible ways to get out of a jam. That's what I was supposed to write, not plan. Yeah, it's like you jumped 1,000 feet, man. Fucking hell. He tells them that Rocket is fine. I quite like the reaction from Nebula there. It's really done well as well. Then the High Evolutionary turns up, and he knocks out like Nebula and all that. So he's now got them as prisoner. And then he just says to Peter, if you want them back, bring me what is mine. So that's where like Peter calls for Kraglin's help. He's like, Kraglin, I need your help. We need your help to sort this out. But we'll come to that. We will come to that at some point. So then we find out a bit more about why the High Evolutionary is so desperate to get Rocket back. The only thing I can see is, I kind of need I need context before I can talk about it. He like says to like the High Evolutionary says to one of his minions, it's you're the reason, you're the one who lost him. And she's like, but, and then he's like, that rancid word, but, he's, his minion, she's trying to explain to him, it might be wiser just to go directly to the new colony and not engage in an unnecessary conflict. You've got two of those kids that are sitting at a table. They're doing rewiring a carbonatrix core, they call it. So, the High Evolutionary looks at him. She's like, she, but fuck it, I'm getting it all mixed up now. The High Evolutionary, it's a man, it's not a woman. The High Evolutionary looks at them and he's like, they can rewire a carbonatrix core in under 2 minutes. But what is that? The minion says that root memorization. And then he goes on to say, in hundreds of years, of all our creations, only one has known true invention. Rotten in every other way, but P13 had that. A populace unable to think what hasn't already been thought will die unless we transfer Rocket's traits into them before we reach the colony. Nothing else matters. Um, so that again, it follows through that. You know, the only thing surely you would have another case of someone being really intelligent. You know, being able to, you know, as he says, know true invention. You'd think there'd be at least one or two. No, just one. But that's why he wants him. He doesn't want this civilization that is like the only thing that they can think of is things that people have already thought. He wants them to, uh, you know, be inventors, do something original. That's what he's looking for out of his experiments with all these civilizations. So you know, it makes sense to why he's so desperate for Rocket. But it's, you know, it does present stuff like, you know, it's someone's obsession with perfection that will, you know, eventually lead to their downfall. Which, you know, I don't really think they hammer home that well. Just like that idea, because that's, you know, that's kind of what it should be. If you're that obsessed with trying to be perfect, you know, ultimately, you know, where am I going with this? I said it better the first time, didn't I? But yeah, you know, you're upset. You're more focused on just perfection. You know, it's eventually going to be your sort of downfall, I guess. Um, or you know, or rather, it is this, you know, this particular villain's downfall. You know, that's probably a bit of a spoiler too soon, isn't it? So then we go to a scene that has the children that we've, you know, met in the previous scene. But Nebula, Drax, and Mantis all get thrown into this cell. Like, they get thrown through a hole. Mantis's neck snaps. She's fine though. What? Like, it literally has a snapping sound. Like she just fucked her neck. So, you know, again, I don't really know what damage Mantis can take if she can survive that. You know, it sounded like she snapped her neck. It looked like that as well. So yeah, because Peter doesn't know about the children, they have to then explain to the children that are in the cages that you know, Peter's gonna stay away from the starboard walls, stay away from the walls because, you know, it's gonna be getting shot at, stuff like that. You know, Nebula straight, like, because these are children that don't understand what they're saying. Nebula seems to think the best idea is to just go and scream at them. It's like, you're scaring them. You're going to scare them. You know that is not going to work. So why did you do that? I don't know. So then Drax like comes in. He's like, you know, you're scaring them. You know, he calms them down. He's like showing them sounds that I used to do with my daughter. You know, making monkey sounds that sounds nothing like a monkey. And then it turns out he knew the children's language all along. And for some, like, he knows that language for some reason, even though aren't these people, you know, I guess because he's got loads of, the High Evolutionary has loads of different civilizations all around the galaxy. So you know, I guess Drax probably could know that, but then to not mention it, why? Why would you not mention that straight away? Why would you not? We need to protect these children. So I'm just going to talk to them straight away and tell them to stay away from the starboard walls in order to protect, you know, you think, especially someone that, you know, was a father, it's like you would think he would just go straight to it. But he doesn't. You know, I don't really get that. And then we're kind of getting into our, you know, big battle before the, you know, before the finale. We've got a bit to go. Yeah, where are we here? I'm trying to remember a part of this film now. Let me see if I can see it just before. Yeah, I don't want to get it wrong, so I'm just seeing what part we're doing. All right, what part is it? So, I don't know why. What am I missing something here? I don't think I am, but it seems to be that I'm forgetting something. I think Gamora. So yeah, after they've sorted those children out, Yeah, I think Rocket and that. I'm sure no, I didn't write this down. No, I didn't write that part down. Uh, he's like Rocket is now back in business. He's all right now. So they all get suited and booted, and Peter's like, we're he's he's powerful than us, but we'll die trying to beat him. Stuff like that. Like Gamora is going to help them. She then, she was looking at Peter's pictures out his bag earlier on in the film, and then she gives it back to him. It's like a picture with his granddad on it. They're really trying to lead us somewhere. But I'm just like, this you ain't done enough. You've not done enough with Peter Quill in this movie to really have it make an impact. But again, getting ahead of myself. Thing with yeah. So yeah, because earlier he called up Kraglin for help. So the big celestial head known as Nowhere, that comes through the portals they create. That comes through the portal. It looks really smaller than it should be. When we see that originally, it's like humongous. It's like almost planet sized. Yet here it's like really, really, really small, and it just goes through this portal. And it also flies now. I don't remember it flying before, but yeah, it flies now. So they've made it to the port. Hold on a second. All right. All right, let's get a move on. So yeah, the celestial head comes through. We're sort of going back and forth between different ships. So we go back to like the evolutionaries. He's told, oh, they've made it to the port, and then he like sends all these creatures they all go into Nowhere, and they all like attack. Rocket is in his own ship. Gamora and Peter are in another. So you've got all these like bugs sort of things flying about. They go into Nowhere and start killing everyone. Evolutionary's minion is not happy with him. He's she's like, but sire, they're specifically made to defend our new world. He's continuing on, get me P-13 and kill everyone in the head of that god. And that's when they wake up this octopus man, something like that. And then all these other sort of creatures. I don't really know what they are. We cut back to Adam. He's on the Guardian ship. He's like strapped down. He breaks out with his little pet, and then he smashes through Peter and Gamora's ship, like in the window, and they're like fine. It's like it's in space. How are you fine from that? The window has a hole in it. All the creatures get into Nowhere. And then the High Evolutionary makes a really weird, really dumb decision. He's desperate to get a Rocket back. Yet he's desperate to get Rocket back, and then he decides, I'm going to kill our bargaining power. Like he's going to try and kill Nebula, Drax, and Mantis when he could use them to try and get Rocket. At least attempt to. It's even pointed out by his minion. High Evolutionaries like open the pit of monsters, which is where Drax and that are. To kill Nebula, Drax, and Mantis. And then his minion tells him, but all the bargaining power will be gone then, and he's just like, do it anyway. So it's like well, no, you're desperate to get Rocket back. Why would you make that decision? You at least want as many options at your disposal as possible. In case one doesn't work out, then you've got another. But now he's just like, kill him. Right, okay. So that's a very dumb decision. So it's like those big monster. The very start of Guardians 2, the big monster they fight. There's like 3 of them that are surrounding Nebula, Drax, and Mantis. Mantis manages to calm them down by using her, powers. Or rather, these things eat batteries. They're not interested in eating us. They're just scared of us. So they're actually good monsters. So that's that part. So like Gamora and Peter have been flying in this ship. They've got, a broken window in it. They're in space. Okay. And like, they're sort of having a confrontation with Adam. Gamora has his little pet. She's like, "I'll kill him if you don't, not do this," and that kind of stalls him a bit. And then Peter jumps out the window, grabbing Gamora and the little pet thingy, and then like he self destructs the ship with Adam in it, which of course doesn't do anything. We've already kind of seen that it does very little damage to him. But he's kind of out of the game for a little bit. So yeah, then we get, I guess a little payoff with Kraglin. At the start of the film, he couldn't quite figure out how to use that dart, how to whistle and get it to do what he does. So then it has like, he sees like Yondu, who says, "Follow your heart, boy." And it's like that line wasn't said to Kraglin. I can only go on that he overheard it, but he wasn't actually told that, so it kind of has less meaning to him. But that's like the little payoff they go with. It's fine. Yeah, and then, like, so he starts killing all these little creatures, all these little bugs flying about nowhere. There's thousands upon thousands of them. He takes a few of them out with his dart, like maybe about 30 at the most, and there's thousands of them. But then like an eagleman shows up, like the eagle guy, and then like Cosmo the dog uses her telekinesis to slam two concrete walls on this eagle. The only thing though is that the eagle just stands there and watches it happen. It's like you can clearly tell what this dog is trying to do to you. But he just stands there. Yeah, and then all the bugs just disappear. Like we don't see them fly off. They just disappear. Even though there was thousands of them. Just disappear out of nowhere. But that's that part. We jump back to the ship with the High Evolutionary. He's like... so his minion has really like had enough of him. She's kind of seeing where he's going wrong. She's like, you're a rational obsession with this animal. You must stop, for God's sake. And then he goes, there is no God. That's why I stepped in. Shouts in her face about it. So that kind of really, she's really like, yeah, this guy's fucking off his tits. He's a real egotist. He's really obsessed with this idea of perfection. He sees himself as a god. So that's, you're on another level. You're on another level if you see yourself as a god. So that's when his minion turns on him. They all turn on him. My only thing I would say is maybe don't let him know you've got a gun on him. Because he can control gravity. He creates some type of big explosion that kills everybody around him. So I'm like, you probably shouldn't have let him know. You probably should have just done it. So yeah, so he's fired. Yeah, because she originally said, "Oh, I'm taking command, disengaged the damaged sectors, and let's retreat." But that's when he explodes all over the place. And then he sends off like a load of these creatures, a load of his fighters. He get P13, kill the rest. So we've got a big fight coming up. So as Peter, Gamora, and Rocket are looking, trying to figure out where Nebula and that is, they blast through the doors, riding those big monsters. They then jump off them. They tell Peter and that there's children and all that in there. Peter turns out it's like there's children. Of course he's going to want to save them. And then Gamora once again. She says, if we want to live, we have to leave now. Fuck these kids. What? That's again. That's not the Gamora I remember from around the time of just as we start Guardians 1. She would not leave a load of kids there. That is not what she would do. So they're still really fucking that up. Just stop doing it. It's not her. You've forgotten who she is. So Rocket has like little flashbacks, like not like big ones, but just like little flashbacks of his life, of the cruelty that was done to him. And then he just says, I'm done running. And then he just walks off. He's like, we're gonna go and get all these kids, stuff like that. I think this would work a lot better if we had more time of present day Rocket. I don't think it was such a good idea with the having him out of the game for the entire time. I just think that if it was something like this guy from the past comes back into his life, it's a guy he's afraid of because all the stuff he's done to him. I think there'd be a lot more to that. So I would have liked something like that. So yeah, then we get a big fight. It's playing No Sleep from Brooklyn. It's just a big fight that goes on for a bit too long, I think. It goes on for about 7 minutes. So yeah, they have that big fight. Once they're done with that, Rocket and Nebula are going to pilot the ship that they're on. And like the rest of them are going to go and save, as it's put, the higher life forms. But yeah, eventually, like Adam then turns up. He's all like burnt and everything. He's about to power up, and then he just collapses. Like because he's gonna like attack Groot, and then he just collapses. It turns out they can't fly the ship because all the flight controls are gone. So Nebula is gonna have to do it with her metal wiry arm, and Rocket is gonna go off to help the others. They have to like line up the ships so like all the kids and that can jump into nowhere. Like the Cosmo the dog has to hold it with its telekinesis in place. And then they have the little arc, I suppose, for Adam, where Adam wakes up, he looks at Groot and says, he looks at Groot and says, why 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 did you save me? I was going to kill you. And then he says, oh, well, Groot says, like, oh, I am Groot. And then it was translated to everybody deserves a second chance. That's why. So they have a little arc there. I'm just like, we didn't really see enough of him. We didn't really see enough of him, to be honest. So we're now, we're kind of getting in the end game now. So yeah, we then jump back to Rocket, and he's helping all these kids get out, and then he sees just up the corridor like all these cages, which of course have animals and stuff like that in there. So he walks up and he sees this. It's the cage of raccoons that we see at the very start of the film. So it's a cage filled with them. So he opens up the cage with the the device that he made back in the past, that he made to escape the first time. He looks up at the it's got what exactly this species is called, and it says raccoon. So I quite like that little payoff, because throughout the entire thing, it's he's always been I'm not a raccoon, and then he kind of takes that on. He we eventually get the line, I'm Rocket Raccoon. So that's a good little payoff. He finally sort of knows what he is. He takes all the raccoons out of the cage. He notices all the other animals before he can do anything. The High Evolutionary comes in. He's like, you thought you could escape me. You think you still have some worth without me. You're an abomination. Nothing but, I think he says, step on my past. You freakish little monster. How dare you think you are more? And then Rocket uses it, because at the start of the movie, Rocket had like a pair of gravity boots. So like because high evolutionary's powers are to do with gravity, so Rocket turns that on, and then it doesn't work anymore. And then he says to him, the name's Rocket Raccoon. So then you eventually get the Guardians come in. They come in, they beat him. Gamora like stabs him and then peels off his face because his face, it's got a fake sort of face there. It's not a real face. It's a real face, but it's like just like a layer over his face. Rocket says a mask. Rocket says it's a mask, and the high evolutionary is, look what you did to me. So I have to assume that when Rocket beat the shit out of him all those years ago, he must have scratched up his face. So he took his face off and replaced it because it wasn't perfect. Look what you did to me. All I wanted to do was make everything perfect. Rocket just says back to him, no, you just hated things the way that they were. And then Rocket decides not to kill him. Because I'm a guardian of the fricking galaxy. That's the line we get. So they're now going to save the animals. All the animals start running through, into nowhere. The only thing is that they have those big monsters come through as well. I'm like, well, they've crushed a few. They've crushed a few things at least. They have them like jumping through at the same time. It's like that's crushing everything. There's 3 of them. There's 3 of these big, humongous things. So that's probably going to do that. And then you have a bit. We get a fake out death again. It's like, don't do that. Just don't do it. Where Peter, like, as they're escaping this thing, because Cosmo the dog can no longer hold it, Peter drops his iPod and then runs back for it, and then he's kind of like he jumps out of the thing as it's no longer attached, and then he gets stuck in space. Like, oh shit, he's dead. No, he's fine. It's just like, why do that? Even when I seen that, it's like, well, it was pretty obvious he wasn't dead. Because there's no way you would make the decision to kill off Peter because, like, the reason for him dying, he went back for his iPod. You can't really kill someone like that in that manner. So it's pretty obvious there, but, his face puffs out. He's out in space. He's freezing all over. And then Adam Warlock saves him and then takes him in. Which kind of brings us right to the end, which we are going to blast through because I'm fucking 3 hours we've been here. 3 hours. That's a very long time. Longest thing we've done so far, but it takes its time. We finally get the end part where we first get our conversation between Gamora and Peter. And I'm just not satisfied. You've completely lost this idea of Peter needing to get over Gamora. About an hour in, that completely got thrown out the window. We were introduced to that at the very start of the film, like, he's not over Gamora. So what we're going to do with him is we're going to get him to the point where he is over Gamora. And they haven't really done enough. They have not done enough here to sort of justify it. Gamora's about to leave with the Ravagers because she always wanted to join the Ravagers. That's definitely her character. She's like, I'm still not who you want me to be, Peter. Peter's like, that ain't so bad. That's fine. And I'm just like, again, it's like, so basically that ain't, but Gamora in this film wasn't likable. She was a bit slow with things, not understanding why Peter and that would care so much about Rocket. She didn't quite understand that. I appreciate you watching, Biff. I'm pretty much about 5 minutes away from finishing up. So yeah, that part of it, I'm just like, why, that ain't so bad, whatever. So that's all we get on that end of things. And then Peter's like, I'm leaving. Which, I don't really think there's much there to justify it. Yes, like Peter calls a meeting with the rest. Like, Gamora's gone. She's gone now, off with the Ravagers. and Peter calls a meeting, and it turns out that he's leaving. He's going to go back to Earth. He's like, ever since my mother died, I've been running. So he's going to go back home. I'm just like, yeah, is that a decision really? Is that a decision he would make? It's a decision he would make a lot more than what Mantis is going to do. Mantis doing what she's going to do really doesn't make a lot of sense. Whereas Peter, I can kind of understand why he would want to go back to Earth, but they haven't really done much in the movie to really just, from what I've seen, maybe I'm missing something, but I don't think they've done enough in the movie to justify this idea that he's going to go back and see if his granddad's still alive. I don't really, because it's like Peter was always this guy that he didn't really have a family, so the Guardians became a family, so it's like these people still are your family. So, but I can believe that a lot more than what Mantis is. Mantis is leaving because I did what Ego wanted me to do, and then I did what the Guardians wanted me to do. So that's why I'm leaving. Even though it's like, well, the issue though is Mantis never had a family. She's like a character where it's like, nah, she wouldn't want to leave. She's got this family. She's never had a family before. So why would she want to... Oh, I've been told what... No, you joined the Guardians of your own accord. You haven't really been told what to do. I mean, when you've been told what to do, you haven't complied with it, have you? So that idea, I just don't get. And then you have Nebula is going to stay here with Drax to create a better society than she had when she grew up with Thanos. And then like that little meeting ends on Groot Groot says, "I love you guys," so he can speak now. That's a nice little thing there. And then like the sort of end payoff that I did really like was because at the start of the movie, Rocket has Peter's iPod, and Peter's like, I told you not to touch my iPod ever, and then and Peter has now left the iPod to Rocket, which I think was a nice little touch there. And that pretty much brings us to it just ends in there's a load of dancing going. They're all dancing, they're all happy and everything. Peter turns up at his granddad's house. They have a bit of a reunion, a hug and everything. And that's pretty much it. We just get a couple of what are they called? A couple of post-credit scenes. One of them was there's another team together. There's another team together. What, like a little girl, Adam Warlock. So that's what they've got there. So we're probably going to get more Guardians of the Galaxy milked to death. Wouldn't be surprised by that. We then have the last post-credit scene, which is Peter sitting down having breakfast with his granddad. And then it sort of, I forget what he's having a conversation about, but then it just ends on the legendary Star-Lord will return. Just don't. Just don't. I don't want a Rick and Morty writer on it, so please don't. And that's it. That's pretty much the entire movie. I've gave my overall thoughts, so I'm kind of in a bit of a hurry here. I'm kind of in a hurry because I'm supposed to have my dinner about an hour ago. So I will finish it off there. But yeah, again, it's not it may seem like I made it out to be a really bad movie. But mainly just talking about the sort of issues in it. Mainly the issues, trying to cover those. But yeah, it's not a film I'd say is bad. It's in terms of words, like from bad, fine to good, I'd probably go about fine. I think I'm probably gonna still stick with my 5.5 out of 10. I'll probably stick with that. Maybe it would change in a week. Who knows? But that's kind of my overall thoughts on the entire film. That's the entire breakdown, and I will just finish off there because we've been here for a very long time, and I'm absolutely starving. But what else have I got? I'll probably be doing like a regular stream on Monday, I don't know when the next like breakdown will be. There may end up being something next week. I'm not too sure. I was considering watching that new Peter Pan and Wendy, but I don't know. I might end up leaving it. But there's a couple other new films that I haven't actually watched yet. That Sisu or Sizu, I've still got that to watch. So maybe I'll like that and want to talk about it. But yeah, I guess that will end us there. I'll be back at some point. I don't really think we got a big sort of movie to break down coming in the next couple of months. I can't think of what the next film is. It's probably The Flash, isn't it? That's probably one of the next major ones. But yeah, that's a good place to stop. 3 hours and 10 minutes. I'm surprised it took that long. But there you go. Lot to talk about. I'll be back at some point. But yes, let me finish there, and I will see you. I will see you. I'll see you on the next one.